and guests. We ask for your patience during this virtual meeting. Multiple staff members are behind the scenes to make sure all applicants and citizens are able to communicate with the board at the appropriate times.
Board members and applicants are participating via Zoom. Some are using video and all are using audio. Please make sure that you remain muted, and applicants, you don't need to have your video on until your case is called. And just everyone, please be aware of your audio and be mindful of anything in the background of your video just to eliminate distractions. The public has the opportunity to participate in a number of ways today. So they can watch via City TV, they can participate via email, phone, or by logging into publicinput.com. To stream the meeting, you can do it through City TV, which is accessed at youtube.com/user/ColumbiaSCGovernment. The public can submit letters and statements via email to cocboardmeeting@columbiasc.gov leading up to and or during the meeting. The account will be monitored during the meeting for each case until such time the board goes into discussion. To participate via phone, you can call at 1-855-925-2801, and when prompted, enter the meeting code 2775. Once you enter the meeting code, you have three options. So you can hit *1, which allows you to listen to the audio of the meeting. If unable to stay on the line, you can hit *2, which allows you to record a voice message that'll be read into the record or played into the record. Please make sure you speak clearly and leave your name and the case for which you are calling. And *3 allows you to be placed in a queue to speak live when prompted. You can hit *3 at any time during the call. We ask that you please wait until your specific case is called so that we know which case you're in the queue to speak for. You can also stream at publicinput.com/COCBOZA-March. And if participating by phone while also streaming on your computer, please make sure to mute the audio on your computer so that you don't have those audio playback issues. There is an audio delay between Zoom and the live recording on City TV and publicinput.com. So if you notice that we're pausing at certain times, it's to allow that audio to catch up and give citizens time to submit any comments or to call in. And I'll go ahead and do roll. Mr. Dinkins?
Here.
Mr. Gregory? I just saw him in the waiting room. Are you there, Mr. Gregory? He's there, but he's muted. Mr. Primus? Okay. Ms. Stevens?
I am here.
Great. Ms. Spinner?
Here.
Mr. Ginyard?
Here.
And Mr. Gregory, if you can unmute yourself, just so I can make sure that you are connected through audio, since you don't have video. Okay. Hopefully he can get himself unmuted. But we have a quorum either way.
Okay, applicants with requests before the Board of Zoning Appeals are allotted a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time should include, but is not limited to, an overview of the project, case history, and any pertinent meetings held regarding the request. This time also includes all persons presenting information on behalf of the applicant, such as attorneys, engineers, and architects. This time limit does not include any questions asked by the Board of Zoning Appeals or staff regarding requests. Any member of the general public may address the board in intervals of 3 minutes or 5 minutes if by a spokesperson for an established body or for a group of 3 or more. The applicant will then have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The board reserves the right to amend these procedures on a case-by-case basis.
The board uses the consent agenda to approve non-controversial or routine matters by a single motion and vote. The member of the board or the general public wishes to discuss an item on the consent agenda, that item is removed and placed on the regular agenda. The board then approves the remaining consent agenda items. On the consent agenda today, we have the approval of the February 4th, 2021 minutes. Case 2021-0010, a special exception for 919 True Street, Unit S, to permit a beauty shop. Case 2021-0014, a special exception on Coon Road to establish a religious organization. Case 2021-0015, a variance for 804 Kawana Road, variance to the maximum lot coverage requirement to permit an open-sided carport. Case 2021-0016, a variance for 804 Kawana Road to the side yard setback requirement for the open carport. Case 2021-0022 for 3500 and 3452 North Main Street, 1209 Avondale Drive and 1217 Sunset Drive for a variance to the maximum front yard setback requirement for a mixed-use development. Case 2021-0023, a special exception for 3500 and 3452 North Main, 1209 Avondale and 1217 Sunset Drive, a special exception to permit a shared parking arrangement for a mixed-use development. Case 2021-0024, a special exception again for 3500 and 3452 North Main, 1209 Avondale and 1217 Sunset for a special exception to permit an alternative parking surface. Case 2021-0026 for 3509 Phillip Street, special exception to permit an alternative parking surface. And I'm going to pause for 1 minute. I'm sorry, I'm getting messages on here and via text. I'm going to make sure something's not happening with the audio. Okay. So, and board members, please note, it's hard for me to see if you chat me questions about audio. So please just note that. All right, in case 2021-0028 for 919 True Street, Unit K, this is a special exception to permit a barber shop. Case 2021-0029 for 1600 St. Julian Place, a special exception to permit miscellaneous personal services. Case 2021-0031, a special exception at 919 True Street, Unit T for a miscellaneous personal service, a day spa. That completes the consent agenda. If anyone wishes to have a case removed from the consent agenda prior to the board vote, please let us know. We will pause and check the COC board meeting at columbiasc.gov email, as well as with public input to see if anything on the line.
Hey, Rachel, John here. Sorry I'm late.
Thank you.
Can I just say one thing about a couple of the cases.
Sure.
Just want to disclose for the board, for the record, a client of mine who I helped buy the land back in September 2019. I am no longer involved in the project whatsoever, but just for the record, I did help the North Main Street and Phillips Avenue. I helped them buy that land, but have not been involved in that whatsoever, and am no longer financially involved. So just want to make that for the record. And if anyone has any issue with it, then that's fine. I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. I don't see a problem with that.
And if staff on public input, is there anyone on the line? I didn't see any new emails come through.
We have no one wishing to speak.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Okay, could we get a motion for the consent agenda, please?
I move that we approve the consent agenda with staff comments. I need to say that.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes.
All right, we'll use the following outline for the regular agenda items. Staff will introduce the case. Applicant will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. The board may ask questions during that time. The public will be allowed to participate via email, voicemail, or phone comment. The applicant will have a chance for rebuttal, and then the action by board, the board will go into discussion. So the first matter on the regular agenda is case 2020-0086. This is a variance for 1307 Mason Road. It's a variance to the maximum height requirement for a multifamily development. If the applicant is on the line, he's welcome to unmute himself and give us some background on the request.
Good afternoon. This is Anthony Lawrence. Thank you. I appreciate it. This project is multifamily, affordable workforce housing project, and the roof pitch is puts us at 46 feet, and the requirement is 40 feet. And we work with the architect to come up with a variety of elevations, and the one that was the most appealing, because we wanted this one to be appealing to the community, North 21 Terrace. I've been working with to make sure a lot of their concerns were addressed. They're very passionate about their neighborhood, as all of us should be. And the objective was to have, outside of just quality construction, architecture and aesthetics that would complement their neighborhood, number one. Number two, be durable materials, of course. And then three, the aesthetics. And so when we were looking at lower pitched roofs, it made the apartments look cheap. And that's something that we did not, and the community did not want to go with. So with a 6 and 12 on the ends and an 8 and 12 in the top elevation, you see that ridge line is at 8 and 12. That was more appealing aesthetically, and so that's the request is to for the variance is to allow us to go to 46 feet, so we can keep the aesthetics at you know, where it would be very appropriate and comfortable for the community. Make the units, the apartment homes, you know, feel as if they are of quality. They're not, you know, some inexpensive and sort of not well thought out. And the elevations of this facility would be one that would be comfortable for those individuals who will be living there.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Does that conclude your presentation?
Yeah, that concludes my presentation. I did have a rendering. I didn't get it to you guys, but I do have a rendering of what they look like. But these 2D drawings communicate the height, you know, the height request that we're making. So,
do you have a site plan yet?
Yes, I do have a site plan. If I could, there's a way, I don't know if you can share my screen, or I can email it to someone. I can.
Not sure if necessary. I was kind of, really, this is not a site plan review, so it's really not necessary. I was just sort of asking the question to gauge how far along you are with the project. So
yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is just
yes, we
one building or several. I'm a little bit.
Oh no, there's a total of 13 buildings. 2 of the 13 are one's a clubhouse and one is actually a mail station.
Okay, so this is a big project. I guess yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a total of 288 apartment homes.
Wow. Something probably needed for the area too. This looks like a really good project.
We're excited about it. It's definitely again, it's been received well by the community after after I helped them understand what this was going to be. They were very involved in creating the elevations you see here. We did several discussions and presentations, and because we're going to be neighbors, and so they needed to chime in on it. And there is some excitement. I mean, you can't make everybody happy, but there is some excitement about this project.
That is a good way to go about it, community. Well, are you familiar with the 6 specific criteria that were asked to judge this request on? Meaning there's 6 that they should have been in your application. They're really, when we look at a variance for something like this, there's really only six things we're supposed to be judging this on.
I'm looking now. I think I have my application.
In your application. And the reason why I want to ask is I want to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit more about this, because I'll be honest with you, reading these criteria, I find them lacking really. Your answers to these questions don't really answer the questions. And we need to be able to get on the record answers to these questions that can help us grant this variance for you. Number one.
I see them now. I see it. Yeah.
So I guess I would ask you to help us here. Please describe the extraordinary and exceptional conditions that pertain to the subject property.
Okay, I see my answer. You're saying my answer is not really addressing.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we're legally asked to do. We're asked to judge this request based on these criteria. And I think this is a good project, and I'd like to help you get there, but based on these answers, and we'll talk more about it later, but now is your opportunity to help us help you.
Correct. Well, for one, up until there was information provided that was, I understood that the ordinance, the changing in the ordinance was imminent, but then it's got pushed back. So we felt that after we had already submitted this, that we would be okay. But I recognize now that it's going to be pushed off with the new ordinance, whereby 46 feet wouldn't even be an issue. But in terms of number one, this, I guess I was trying to explain in that the geometry of the apartments, the previous roof geometry at a 3 and 12 pitch, it was not appealing. I can't get any more specific than that, other than getting very flowery in my words. But when you are doing a project like this in a community that hasn't had any development in the past 40 years, having their input or having them as a part of this process was very important. And so we wanted to present some architecture that would be comfortable to them. Again, this is, it's pretty substantial, 288 units. And you want something that's going to go in, even though this is private property, even though you can go in and just do what you want, but we went the extra step. I went the extra step to make sure that they were able to, be a part of chiming in and giving us their input. And so that was one of the feedbacks was, well, they look cheap. So, we decided, okay, well, we need to add more brick, add more of your hardy plank siding. And then the roof pitch really made that aesthetic in terms of the shape of the building. It made that really sing.
Understood. Well, thank you, Mr.
Okay.
Wallace.
And so, this is a precedent in terms of other properties in the vicinity outside of Hastings Point neighborhood, which is the newest, but still old. And Hastings Point's been around for about 15, 17 years. There isn't any new architecture in this side of town. And so that alone, sort of number two for us is, and that's why I was explaining that, there hasn't been anything like this in over 25 years. Actually, it's been about 40 years since there's been anything new after doing some more research. So there was nothing to balance against this. This is a 64-acre site whereby, we're carving out a total of 30, 39 plus to do this project and to include the green space and expanding a current quote unquote fishing hole. It's being expanded. And so, instead of having a precedent, we didn't have one. We are setting the precedent. I'm looking at number 3 right now. Yeah, and there, to make this feasible for this demographic, as well as with it being in the opportunity zone, and as well as working with state housing, in order to make the math work, and still have green space, which I'm very keen on. 3 stories was what we needed to go with in order to make them all work. And that literally, that's the math side of kind of process. You have the design side and you have the math side or the financing side. And in order to make that work, to answer number 3, I'm just embellishing more than what I've already mentioned here, is that is something that we needed to make happen. The other thing is so that these apartment homes, don't feel like your typical Hampton Inn where the ceiling inside the room is at 7.6 because they're trying to, do as less as possible. in order to get the, get the hotel constructed for, for you maximizing dollars, we went with some decent ceiling heights in each of these units. And so that's what predicated the height to be where it is. I'm reading number 4. Just give me a second. I apologize.
Yeah,
I know I got 10 minutes. I know I got 10 minutes. I'm sorry. I'm getting close to that. So again.
You're answering a board member's question, so you're not on the clock. Don't worry.
Okay. All right. That's good. Okay. Okay. For number 4, again, there is no precedent. We are establishing sort of we will be establishing a new aesthetic. The only feature of these apartment homes, with the addition, we increased the amount of brick. A lot of the homes in the neighborhood are your ranch style homes, 1960s built, 1970s, and they're brick. Some of them have vinyl, but a lot of them are brick homes. That's the complement to the existing community. And then I lean heavily on, because that was just part of the conversation of what these look like, and will there be something that will attract. And this was very, very important to the existing community, who are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s. We don't want a facility constructed that would attract individuals that wouldn't be sensitive to having seniors in the adjacent neighborhood. So the aesthetic of this needs to be one where it will attract those individuals who are carrying a full-time job, taking care of their family, doing the same things that we did when we were in our 20s and 30s, and 20s and 30s, and just buying these ranch style houses. And so, giving us approval on a 46-foot eave height, we felt that very, very, very passionately about it. Otherwise, we would have made it 40 feet. We would have just did it. But giving us this will help with strengthening, our approach to attract a market base who can appreciate being here, and who can appreciate taking care of the property and respecting the property. And again, we didn't want to go with the flat roof, which is what is common with a lot of multifamily housing now, because the neighborhood is not full of flat roofs. The neighborhood are filled with your ranch style houses, which are 5 and 12, 6 and 12, 7 and 12 roof pitches. There's some that are 3 and 12. I'm not going to be remiss by, I'm not saying that, but we felt that steeper roof pitch would give us the ability to help the community, make sure this property was handsome. All right, and I'm gonna have to switch earpieces here. My AirPods are starting. The battery just started. I just got the chimes. Give me a second. I may have to switch to my laptop's audio, so I may just give me a second here while these charge.
While he's doing that, Gene, just to let you know, Marcellus was able to join us. He came on about halfway through this case, so he'll be jumping in on the next matter.
Good, good. Fantastic.
So, and Jenna had some audio issues too, but she's back and has been on this whole case. She had issues during the consent agenda, but she's back now too.
Great.
Can everyone hear me now?
We can hear you well.
Okay, perfect. Okay, good. All right, yeah, I had to switch over. To add more to what I provided for number 5, I think I understand what you're with number 5. I was taking number 5 as a question about the financial implications of this project. Am I incorrect in that assumption, or is
It's
Yeah.
not that you're necessarily incorrect, but we really can't. The fact that financial really is not something that we can use to grant someone a variance.
Mhm.
That's really not what we look at, and what we're supposed to look at. But
got it.
That
Okay.
one's more, Mr. Lawrence, that one's more you're asking for 46 feet. What would be the impact? Is there a reason why it can't be 45 feet or 44 feet or closer to the actual requirement? Are you as close to it as you can possibly get?
I understand. Okay, thank you. That helped a whole lot. Got it. And recognize this too. So, in my outside of the aesthetics, the next most important thing is, okay, can you really do the project? So the financial part is sort of always the second thought in making sure these kinds of, this type of community project can work. So can we reduce the height down? Yes. It's not more complicated than that. We can look at a 6 and 12 pitch, which would, if you did 6 and 12, then the peaks of the ridge lines would all line up, and the center ridge line wouldn't be higher. That is something that would not be it wouldn't be a debating factor on our end. It wouldn't be a problem. And in going back to the community, if they will see these I say young ladies and men are very keen. They know they know what they're looking at. We'll just explain to them that, hey, this is something that was a requirement in order for us to get the Board of Zoning Appeals approval. But that wouldn't kill the project. So could we go 44 feet? Yes. Could we go 45? Yes. We would not go higher. I mean, again, because at that point, it's not necessary. So what we were only asking for was what's absolutely necessary. Thank you for clarifying what number 5 means. Number 6. Yeah, that I packaged number 6 similar to the earlier question, in that there is no precedent. Well, there is a precedent. It's over 30 years old, and it's the neighborhoods. It's the shopping. There's a little strip mall across the street, which is somewhat deteriorated, and the roofs over there are not they're not pitched roof. It's just all, parapets and storefront. And so the fire station across the street, does not have a pitched roof. Again, we were focused specifically on the residents' homes and what their eye was comfortable with seeing in North 21 Terrace. And so we felt that because those homes have been there and at some point in time, were approved to be constructed many years ago, that we would be in line. The aesthetics of this building would be in line with the aesthetics of those homes. And that was the guiding light. Studying the zoning ordinance, that was not the guiding light. Making sure that the people in the Greenview, North 21 Terrace area were comfortable with this, that was our guiding light. Unless I am misreading or misunderstanding number 6, please correct me.
No, I think we understand you. You've gone over the project in detail with us, and thank you. So at this time, Mr. Lawrence, we'd like to ask other board members, do you have any questions for the applicant that he hasn't already addressed in this presentation?
I don't, Gene.
I've got a brief one. Mr. Lawrence, is this something, the same design you've built in other locations, or is this specific to this? And in other locations, did you stick with this same roof pitch?
For every, the answer to your question, no. This is specific to this this location. We cater the aesthetics, to the residents first, and then to the municipality that we have to get approvals by. And so no, this is not a sort of pick it up and plop it somewhere else. This was specifically, again, with the additional brick being added and the vertical siding, hardy plank siding, that was based off of getting input from the community. And the roof pitch specifically, the roof pitch was literally, it came out of discussions of what makes the residents, what makes everyone feel comfortable about how this is going to look and who it's going to attract. That's really the big issue. Is we don't want to attract anyone to this community that's not going to appreciate and take care of it, and the architecture needs to speak to that.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
If I sort of picked up around, you're sort of talking around a lot, but it sounded like what you're sort of trying to say is that younger buyers would like a higher ceiling, and the older residents prefer or would like the higher roof pitch from an aesthetic perspective. So you're trying to harmonize those two desires. Is that sort of what you're saying?
That you want the individual apartments to feel, apartment homes to feel comfortable.
Right.
And so can you go with an 8-foot ceiling? Sure. Yeah. But to really make it attractive and make people, because one of the challenges that we're, faced with is, and I feel very optimistic about what the North Main area can be, particularly after reading Richland County's plan for that area as a part of their master plan, and it being a gateway into downtown Columbia. I can definitely envision what it can be. And so the challenge is when someone walks inside of this apartment home, they feel, yes, I can live here. And so, a higher ceiling would appeal to, not necessarily, younger or older, but you're wanting working class individuals, in these apartments. And there were some young, the neighborhood is a mix. A majority of the neighborhood are your 60, 70, 80-year-olds, but there are younger people in the existing neighborhoods. And so we were, taking in all that input into consideration. We felt that it would, you want an apartment home to feel comfortable when someone walks in the door. I'm repeating myself, but I'm just, trying to drive home the point. And then two, when you're walking away from this and you're driving away from this, or you're driving down North Main and you see this, you think to yourself, okay, those are handsome looking apartment homes.
Okay. Okay. That's, I think you've answered my question.
I do have a quick question. This PDIA, they must do these, specialize in these. We just had 2 months ago, we had someone come through for a similar request, and looks very similar. You mentioned, and they wanted the 9-foot ceilings too, but their roof pitch wasn't, or their roof height wasn't quite as high. You mentioned you might be okay, still be able to get the 9 foot, what you want, if we just maybe brought that down a couple feet.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That might be sort of what I suggest once we get to board discussion, but we'll just because there's since we just recently did something for that.
Understand? Yeah, you can, 8.6 ceiling. It's not gonna kill the project again.
I think they had, because I went back. Yeah, I went back and looked for it. Just why they had I think 12.5. Yeah, 12.5.
Yeah, there are a handful of architecture firms in the state that quote unquote qualify for these kinds of funded projects. So it's no different than the city having a preferred list of plumbing contractors to do repair work on city water lines. The same applies. You may already know that, but there's only a handful of firms that are qualified to do this type of project.
Rachel, I have a quick question for you. The applicant stated that in the new rewrite of the city's zoning ordinance, that this height would be allowed at 46 feet. Do you know if that's accurate?
I know some districts it does increase, but that ordinance, I can't say for certain when it will be effective.
Yeah.
We have a proposed map right now, because this is a property that's being newly annexed. We have not assigned a zoning district to it. There are a couple zoning districts that are comparable to the RG2 that it's being annexed in as. So I can't say for certain what district it is going to end up being.
Understood. Okay, well, do any other board members have any questions for the applicant? Okay, I don't hear any. Rachel, do we have anyone on the line wishing to speak about this matter?
I don't see any new emails, but I think there was one person with their hand raised. I'll see if Erica still has them on the line.
There's one person that wishes to speak. I'll connect them now.
Okay, thank you. Is someone connected?
So caller at 518-4702, you are connected, so please feel free to speak.
I'm sorry, I went on the wrong one. My fault. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I was on the wrong one. My fault.
Okay.
Okay, thank
What I do? Hit the zero?
We can end your speaking session. What case are you calling about? We'll make sure that you're connected to the right one.
Yeah.
Go ahead and end his session.
And while that's underway, again, reducing the height is something that we, again, it would not kill the project. We've had to make a lot of different changes on this project to appease the neighborhood, and so that's something that we wouldn't go against. Just what we would just need to know what your final decision would be in terms of, do we need to be at 40 or if we'll be allowed to do 42, 43, if there was any.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. We'll get to that, but we're trying to see if there's a public input. You'll have more opportunity in a minute.
I think we're good, Gene. I think that was the only one who had indicated with a hand raised. So I don't believe there's anybody else on the line.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Okay. Well, at this point, then let's enter into board discussion and see what everyone thinks. I'm curious what everyone thinks. Who wants to start? Catherine?
I'm very pleased that this seems to have been done with a great deal of neighborhood input. I think that's really nice, and I wish we had letters to that effect, but okay. I think that's good. I think also that allowing them to raise the ceilings, ceiling heights, will make it much more appealing. But occupy, people will want to, nice people will want to live there, and I think that those are valid concerns to me. I wish we had more boxes checked with the presentation as you were trying to get, but I think that he's done an awfully lot of good things that will make this a much more valuable, if we allow the height increase, will make it a more valuable property for the neighborhood, and this neighborhood needs all the help it can get.
Yeah, Gene, I kind of agree with that. And, seeing a similar request a couple months ago and to get the 9-foot ceilings, my suggestion would be to drop it down to something similar in line to what that guy was requesting, which was 43 and some change. So maybe drop it down to 44. But that would be my suggestion. Make a motion to approve it, subject to the top line height being 44 feet. That's what I think I would want to suggest.
What's the difference? I mean, they got to go redesign these things, and I mean, nobody knows whether it's 44 or 46 feet.
John, did you go back and look? Was it a 5 and 12 pitch?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, next person might ask for 48 and 50. I don't know, just to try to keep it consistent, I guess.
Appreciate that point.
I don't think precedent is as big a deal overall. I don't think we have to be consistent citywide as much as saying, well, gosh, within the context here, this seems to make some sense. And given that this is an affordable housing project, I think, I don't want to have them have to pay to redesign go through all the redesign expenses to make it 2 feet lower. I don't think that we can. I don't think the difference to us is going to be that much, or to anybody else is going to be that great, 2 feet one way or the other. But I think to the cost of the value of the project, it will. So I'd like to keep it I'd like to approve the project as proposed, but I guess if you've made a motion to otherwise, then we have a procedural thing.
He said he would make a motion.
You would.
Yeah, I hadn't made it yet, yeah.
So I'm with you, Catherine. I think it's okay. I mean, it's cheaper to build a shorter building, but it sounds like the local residents have requested this style roof because they like the way it looks better. And that's, kind of the point of maximizing the height and putting a limit on there. So if that's what makes them happy and the developer is willing to do it, I'd lean towards approving it as it's submitted as well.
I move that we approve it as submitted, subject to staff comments.
I'll second it.
Okay, all right. Well, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? No.
May I speak quickly?
But your motion passed, so you're good.
Okay, I just want to thank you so much. I appreciate it. I just want to let Ms. Fender know, we do have a letter that I submitted to the Neighborhood Association president. I can provide that information. But,
We're
I'm
good.
good.
okay, all right.
We're gonna
Okay,
move this
yes,
along,
ma'am.
Mr. Lawrence.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, everyone.
Thanks. I also just want to let people know, I saw a couple emails come in. If you're on the line from the consent agenda, you're good. You're welcome to log off. You do not have to stay on for the entire meeting. So the consent agenda was approved.
But you're welcome to listen in if you have nothing better to do.
You're welcome to, but you are not.
Democracy in action.
All right, the next item on the agenda is case 2021-0011. This is a special exception for 2939 Truman Street. This is a special exception to establish an automotive towing facility. If the applicant is on the line, they are welcome to unmute themselves and present their case.
One second, please. Board members, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Chad Washington. And this is my first time doing one of these, so I believe at this time we would just explain to you what it is that we're trying to do here at this address.
Perfect.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, myself and my business partner, Kenneth Myers, we're the owners of Imperial Towing, and the 2939 Truman Street. We didn't say it in our, I guess, in our application, but it's a family-owned property. My father has owned this property for about roughly 20, maybe 22 years now. And it's located in the Belvedere neighborhood off of West Beltline, and I guess you can say the Two Notch area, the Two Notch and West Beltline. But it's located off of Truman Street in West Beltline. We put in for a special exemption back in October and to house our towing company here. And we were met with some opposition then from the neighborhood. And due to the time, we went ahead and withdrew our request because we just bought or made a sizable investment in the trucks, and we had payments to make in X, Y, and Z. So we found another property that was already permitted as far as zoning goes for a tow trucking company, maybe less than a quarter mile away at 2725 Brady Street. And we were there, we were set up there, it had everything that was fine for us to have a tow trucking company as far as a fenced in area, lighting and office space. But what we could not foresee is what weather would do as far as where our parking fenced area was. This is a grass area. And what was happening is when it would rain or whatnot, you know, our trucks are kind of heavy, so they would get bogged down in the mud because the area wasn't paved. So that area wasn't conducive for what it is that we were trying to do. And basically what I'm saying what we're trying to do is house our trucks in that area. It wasn't more so about the cars being housed, but our trucks, you know, having our trucks being able to be locked up at night in a safe area, whatnot, secured. But it wasn't conducive for us because of, you know, weather conditions. So we doubled back to 2939 Truman Street, where you can see in the pictures, the majority of the areas, well, I'm not gonna say majority, all of the areas paved on the inside of the lot. And that's where we want to be able to, you know, house our towing company. I've had a chance to meet with, I guess you would say, community leaders and other people in the community and have them express why it is, you know, why they're for or why it is that they are against us having a towing company housed there. And for the majority of it, you know, it seems that the opposition was against us having a towing company there based off of what they thought it might become in the future. Like I said, it's been in our family for 22 years, and I'll wholeheartedly, honestly say the property is an eyesore. And it's probably been an eyesore because it's been abandoned for, I want to say abandoned, but it really hasn't had a tenant there to man that property, to keep it clean and to be there day to day to make sure things on that property are functional. And that's what we were expressing to the neighborhood is that, you know, I don't want to be in a situation where you're holding me accountable or our future business accountable for, you know, what a family member did in the past, or how they kept the property in the past. Because we want to make that commitment to the neighborhood to clean up the property if we were afforded the chance to. And also being able to move to that property will legitimize our business. Because right now I guess we're homeless, that we've left that property on 27 and 25 Brady Street. I believe my business partner is online. If he want to.
Hey, yes. I'll be back. You guys hear me?
Oh yeah, good. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey, well, my name is Kenneth Myers. I'm sorry I was late to the call, but just like Chad said, like I said, we're a growing business, and at no point, you know, speaking to the community, are we not on the same page. I think the community and us want similar things. We want that property to be better than what it is right now, and for us to have that opportunity, we need to get the zoning. And I think there has been some kind of misinformation on, you know, what we're trying to do, but we actually did a community event recently. We did a fish fry for everybody. We let them come in, do a drop-in to kind of talk to us, meet with us, to know the faces. And there were a lot of familiar faces as we are from the community. I currently live about a half a mile from that location. And I think all parties will benefit from us being over there. In order for us to be in there, we can't have junk. We're running a business. It has to be appeasing to both the neighbors, to us, and our customers. And so, and just to piggyback on what Chad said, that's pretty much our focus here. We are very much so community-oriented people, being that we grew up around this area. We're willing to work with the community leaders, the neighborhood association on making improvements and doing things along their goals as well. So this isn't something that, you know, we're taking lightly by any means. And
can I interject 1 second? I want to make this point. When people hear tow yard, they automatically assume that it's going to be like, you know, 50 cars over there or scrap cars or whatnot. And we said from the very offset, we want to, if we do tow or house cars, we only want to house operable cars. And we've been in business now maybe 6 months, and we towed over 850 cars. In our last lot, and that of that 850 cars, and you guys got a chance to read the notes, we've only housed 3 cars. And we didn't house those 3 cars for over 24 hours. Our business, we're not mechanics, we're not a scrap yard. Our business on a day-to-day is, you know, we get in our trucks, we go out and service insurance calls so people are broken down the side of the road or whatnot, or somebody needs to get from point A to point B. So in essence, we want somewhere where we can house our trucks and meet and have an actual address where, you know, it legitimizes our business. I don't intend, and Kenneth doesn't intend for this to be a scrapyard, a junkyard, or a place that houses broken down and abandoned vehicles. And I would understand, because when you hear tow yard, if you're familiar with Sanford and Son, I'm thinking they'll probably think this is going to be a Wally Washington and Sons rendition of Sanford and Son, and that's not what we intend this to be at all. The current owner of the property has not a penny invested in what it is that me and Kenny have set forth. So this would be under different leadership. And I don't know if you got a chance to read our bios or whatnot and see our backgrounds. We are from the community. We did attend the elementary schools, the middle schools, and the high schools at this neighborhood services. So we are familiar with the services that are needed here in our community and the faces that need to be served in that community. So that's just a spiel on what it is that we're trying to do. And we hope if there is opposition on the phone or whatnot, that they heard us and hear us out.
Well, thank you. I think you did a very good job with your application answering our questions of these 8 criteria that we asked to judge. And I think you did a really good job with your presentation, giving us some background about yourselves. So I think that was a very good presentation. At this time, I'd like to ask the board if anyone has any questions for the applicant.
I have a quick question. Were you not housing cars in the old property because it wasn't paved and it was potentially muddy, or will you continue to not house cars even when you have a paved, nice surface to park on?
Well, so the majority of our business right now, we work for insurance companies like, well, I want to say insurance companies. We work for a dispatcher named Ajero, okay? And the majority of those calls are, you know, motorists who are out and about and, you know, happen to break down or whatnot, right? So we're just out in the trucks all day, basically taking a car from point A to wherever they're going. And point B is usually either their house or a service place or whatnot. But to answer your question, I'm not saying that we haven't housed cars or won't house cars. I'm saying we don't want to house cars that aren't operable. So,
and John, just to further answer your question, we stored cars, so cars weren't the issue at the tow yard. The cars were light enough that the soil didn't matter. It was only when our trucks were there and sit there for overnight and it rained, and the next morning we try to crank them up, we were stuck in the mud. So we only stored 3 cars because that was just how our scope of business goes. We're not asked to store them, and when they do, it's rare, but we can. It was just the lot previously was just for our trucks, not customers' vehicles. They were light enough to be able to go in and out.
If there were a restriction on your storing any cars at the site, because it sounds to me like mostly what you're using this as, if I understand what you're saying, you're using this as a transit, as a dispatch center for your towing trucks, and then you're merely taking, as you say, vehicles from point A to point B, and that point B isn't supposed to be your site. Is that correct?
Well, point B can be our site. So let's say someone calls in and they're from Florida. And so they just want their car off the side of the highway. They may not have the resources or the coverage to get that car towed back to Florida. So what they'll do is we'll pick it up and house it until they can coordinate, however, finance or make an extra payment to the insurance company so that they can transport, or they call a different company to come get it from us. So we will, as a functioning business, we want to have that ability to have a car there just to take it back to the lot, just in case. Let's say we're supposed to deliver it to Caliber Collision or John Harris Body Shop, and we get there and that body shop is closed and doesn't have a drop box. We would have to hold on to that car until the next morning when they're open, because those body shops don't want to be held liable for anything that happens to that vehicle outside of their gates.
Okay. So what happens if the person who can't afford to get their car back down to Florida never can afford to get their car back to Florida?
Well, then we'll just follow the steps in the South Carolina law book, where we'll send a certified letter to the owner. And then after, however the law stipulates, I believe it's a maximum of 30 days. If they don't respond, then we go through the magistrate's office and auction that vehicle off.
Okay.
In essence, though, we've never had to do that yet, because most of the cars we told, for the insurance companies that we've been working with, these cars are well insured, and then the next morning they'll find somebody, like another tow company will come and pick that car up. Or at least from our experience, that's what has happened.
Okay. That seemed to be something that the neighborhood was pretty upset about overall, was the idea that, there were going to be junk cars there.
And I understand it. To be honest, we've had that property since I was in the 6th grade. I've matriculated through a BS program, a master's program, and a PhD. So it's been a long time since we've had that property. I just remember in the 6th grade, I would get picked up, we'd go over there, we'd work on that property, and it's probably been an eyesore for the majority of my life. And that's because the guy who owns it, which is my father, he was a collegiate, well, he still is a collegiate athletic director, but he doesn't really necessarily have the time to put in over at that property. Being that me and Kenny have made the decision to leave our chosen career paths before now and put in 100% towards our current business, I know that we also have the resources in order to clean it up and make it look, presentable for the neighborhood.
I agree. And to that point, and we've talked to people in the community, and that issue is when they first turn into that neighborhood, this is the property they see. And it's probably the largest property on that Truman Street side. And so for us, we plan on cleaning all that out, because I, for one, don't want to be sitting in the office, come outside and have to look at it. I mean, Chad knows I've been around Chad's family since we were younger. We just want to do something with it. And we can't even really, if we wanted to store cars, we couldn't because of the amount of stuff over there. So first things first is, if we can get this passed, is to start piece by piece knocking that thing down. And it'll take a while because of the amount of things in it. And the aerial photos, I mean, this one we're looking at here is pretty old. You can't even, there's more stuff there than that. And so we will have to just walk it down piece by piece and get that stuff out of there. Mainly because we need space to operate. We don't want to be driving over nails and putting holes in tires that cost $350 to replace.
I mean, I guess I'm sort of feeling a little sympathy for the folks across the street on Truman Street who've had to look at that for forever and ever. And I don't have a lot of sympathy for property owners who don't maintain their properties and want to push it off that the tenants didn't do it or whatever. You just got to maintain your property so that it's not an eyesore. And it sounds like it has been. That's not on you. That's your daddy, and that's fair enough. But what kind of assurances can you give these people across the street that it's not going to end up an eyesore or continue to be an eyesore?
All we can give is verbal assurances. And with that being said, I mean, I've read in your past notes where you guys have given I guess you've allowed businesses to continue with the contingency of working within the scope of the passing them for zoning. I would ask for several days or a certain amount of days to, start cleaning up on the property and making steps towards it not being an eyesore. It's not the type of thing where you can go in there overnight and it'll be clean tomorrow. That's for sure.
And I suppose code enforcement would ultimately come after you if you kept on not doing it. So
correct.
Right. All right.
Me and Chad spoke briefly about this. We were out there trying to just wrap our arms around how much work that is. And so we had planned a few things. We wanted to put one of those wraps around the fence so that it'll look more uniform. We plan on painting the buildings. And like I said, we just need time. If the community could work with us and say, hey, look, okay, 30 days, what happened? 60 days, what happened? If we can put together before and after pictures to kind of show that progression, I really think that'll go a long way in us, building trust in that community going forward.
Part of the staff comments talks about proper screening. Can you guys talk about what y'all might do from a landscaping perspective, just to provide some sort of buffer or to help provide a more visual appealing entrance to that business or front there?
Initially, what we want to do is, I believe the gate on that property goes all the way around. It's a fenced-in property, and initially, what we want to do is put like a black screen around or whatnot, all the way around the property, starting from the front gate. That it backs up to 2 other car lots, but where it doesn't back up to the car lot, I guess from the Truman Street side and going down. I believe that street is it's on the side of Truman that faces the other houses. We want to put a screen all the way around there. But I've talked with Kenny this summer. I really want to take that gate down. And I want to put up another fence, a type of fence that is a curbside appealing to the neighborhood. And it looks very, very uniform outside of like an industrial look barbed wire fence. It's currently up there now. We've had a chance to go out and scout some other yards and that are somewhat in neighborhoods. I guess that were just grandfathered in or what have you, and see what it looks like for their curb appeal. And we know that they're housing X amount of cars behind those walls, but you don't know the cars back there. They don't look like tow truck companies at all, because of the type of gates that they have put up, or fencing that they have put up. But immediately we would like to put up a screen, a black screen going around or whatnot on the current fencing that we have. And like I said, around the summertime, because it's going to take time we're going to have to pull permits and have somebody come in and break down the fence that we want to put up or like to put up. And I think very appeasing to the eye. That fencing would change,
Hey, don't mean to, Rachel, would a black screen, would that suffice as proper screening?
Vinyl and tarp material are not permitted fence materials. I would have to see images of what they're talking about for what would be implemented as this black screening, to say for certain. I mean, you see some of those opaque fences with chain link becoming that, but certain materials we would just have to see in code enforcement as well to make sure it meets ordinance.
Is it like the porous material that you see with holes in it that I see in like ball fields sometimes and stuff?
Correct. Like something that'd be on the back out in the outfield of a baseball.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But of course, it'll still be on the chain fence until we can get the kind of like the brick design that Chad was speaking about.
Yeah. That would most likely be all right.
Okay, do any other board members have any questions for the applicant?
Can we see some kind of, can we put some kind of time, outside time limit for this brick? Because I think that would go a long way to making me feel a lot better about it.
Oh, that's right. What do you think an adequate time would be?
Are you asking me?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know. I mean, I would like to know what you think it is. How soon could you get it done by?
I'm thinking about this honestly this summer. Because
So September 1st.
Awesome. Yeah.
You'll be done by September 1st.
I think we can make strides we can make strong strides for September 1st.
How about completion by December 31st?
We can do that.
Oh, yes, I know we can do that.
Okay. Well, that would be much more appealing to me. That would resolve an awful lot of my concerns.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any other board members have any questions before we move on to the public comment period? Okay, good. Well, Rachel, I would assume that we're going to have quite a few callers, or at least some, so let's get started.
And I had sent you all some letters ahead of time. One came from the applicant, their response, and some information, and then there were some letters in your packet. I sent you one today from Miss Jenkins, just so that you could see her attached images, but I'll read the letter into the record, and then we have some voicemails to be played in.
Okay.
All right, dear Board of Zoning Appeals, Mr. Washington states that if this special exception is granted, the neighborhood will receive a good steward of the property which sits defunct and neglected in the neighborhood, and the area will be kept up to city codes and property grounds will be cleaned and manicured. I feel it would be different for Mr. Washington as a property keeper if he did not know the history of 2939 Truman Street. Then he could be informed. However, as a relative of the property owner, he has had firsthand knowledge of this defunct and dilapidated property. It has been this way for over 25 years. This is not Chad Washington's first visit to this site. The conditions of the establishment have remained the same, even though he desires this site for his towing and wrecker service business. The property owner, Willie Washington, and former resident of Belvedere, would occasionally speak in community meetings. He would pay his $12 community dues and would often furnish Belvedere community activities with a tent or two, or a few chairs, or maybe even paper supplies. He would share stories of his prior residence in Belvedere to the community members. He also communicated how he would donate things to the less fortunate. These donated items were discarded things from a local HBCU, which were stored at 2939 Truman Street. Mr. Washington gives knowledge that he purchased this building, one, for his son who was in law school, in hopes that upon graduation he would return to Columbia and set up a law practice at 2939. Two, in thinking this building was in the empowerment zone, which would provide incentives. Neither of those materialized, nor did any cleaning or manicuring on a consistent basis take place. City codes, city violations, a lot. Through all those wonderful 25 plus year stories, 2939 Truman continued to be an eyesore. Mr. Chad Washington mentioned being zoned for C3 as other commercial businesses in the industrial area, and that the property fits in with the current surrounding area. The businesses on Truman are the former Nick's Used Cars, the Gazeball gas station, and the Car Connection Manning. There is a distinct difference and no comparison aesthetically. They upkeep and have maintained their properties. Mr. Washington also mentions they would not house inoperable vehicles on premises. If the said vehicles are operational, then they would have no necessity for a towing or record service, unless he picks up vehicles that are parked in unauthorized areas only. How many towing and record services are located directly in residential neighborhoods and are pleasing to the eye? The area of Dodge, Curry, Cox, Carnegie, and Brady are all walking distance from 2939 Truman. All are in the city in an area which has businesses of the like, with towed or wrecked cars on top. We do not want this in Belvedere. Imperial Towing Service was previously located on Brady Street. How many of the 6 members on the board visited these areas? Has anyone on the zoning board visited or inspected the premises or county requirements? Does anyone of the 6 zoning board members live in Belvedere or travel the obstacle course and damaged roads on Truman? If you did, you would understand why not only me, but others have a negative demeanor for the property at 2939. You would understand the request not to approve a special exception for towing and wrecker service at this location. The Washingtons are no longer residents of the Belvedere community. If they were, they would understand why not only me, but others have a disapproving disposition for the property at 2939. I am a homeowner in Belvedere. I am opposed to this request for special exception. Peace, blessings, and mask up, Sylvia Jenkins. And then she had attachments of images which were provided to the board. At this time, I will turn it over to public input, to Erica and Andrew to see if there's any voicemails or callers on the line.
Okay.
I have 2 callers who wish to speak, and I believe 6 voicemails. I'll let the speakers go now.
Is anyone there?
Well, Rachel, you want to try another one and give them an opportunity?
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. This is Denise Mitchell, Jenkins Mitchell, and Cora Jenkins. And we want to wish you all a very good evening. The issue of the zoning and code enforcement has come up concerning the implementation of the towing service in the Belvedere community. Now, I don't have to tell any of you how wrong this is on many, many fronts. There was a meeting or an event to meet the neighbors.
You may have hit mute. I think we just lost you.
Are you still there?
Hello?
Hi, are you back? Hi, sorry about that.
Hello?
Can you hear us?
I can hear you fine.
Okay, all right.
Okay. So what I was saying is, my question is, what is the value of the tow yard to the community? Let's say the same towing service was applying for a permit to be placed at the corner of, let's say, Cheney Street in the entrance of a very well large known predominantly Black neighborhood in Columbia. They wouldn't like that. Or let's say this was being near Maxie Gregg Park, or maybe on Trenholm Road in Forest Acres. I'm certain a few of you would not like that as well. And if it was placed in Shandon, or maybe 5 Points, or maybe somewhere between Assembly and, let's say, Laurel, we wouldn't be having this conversation at all. No, we wouldn't, because that would not be an option. How would you feel to walk out your door and drive past this soon-to-be monstrosity daily, going to and from work? That's with or without the black fence. How would you feel to have your children playing outside? Would you deem this safe? an environment for your children? It would seem to me as Colombians, we have lost our way. We have gotten our priorities mixed up. We want to be looked at a progressive city with the medical university, USC, the state capitol, and other achievements, but we've forgotten how to get there. We don't want to take the hardline steps to which require to put us where we need to be. Instead of citing people for tall grass and boarded up houses for more than 6 months, which I understand that, I get it. We should be after folk who want to leave junk vehicles, and I realize he said they're not going to be there for a long time. I heard that in the neighborhood. Well, if they are, and there are some that are there now across the street, where mosquitoes and snakes and rodents and vagrants and folk who are living there with animals and anybody else who wants to take up a residence, which are surrounded by homes where people live and have lived for years on end. These are neighborhoods. These are people. We should be about zoning and code enforcement to make our neighborhood look better, to be better. We should be about enhancing the city's appearance, whether in a predominantly Black neighborhood or a white neighborhood. It doesn't matter. It's all Columbia. It's our home. It's our city. We should be about prohibiting new businesses which have an appearance of junk and not added value to our living space on a main corridor. Ever think about how much you pay attention to when you enter into a city or drive through, the impression it makes on you? Have you thought about Beltline, Two Notch Road, Fair Road? Although these are in Black communities, they are all roads that lead to downtown Columbia. There are the most important roads that we have, some of the most important roads in that corridor, where people exit off the highway, which lead into downtown Columbia. The folks who travel this road are going to USC games and our newly built baseball field. What thought do those folk have about traveling through abandoned buildings and junkyards and tow yards?
But ma'am, let me interrupt. Thank you. This is very heartfelt testimony, but please wrap it up. You exceeded your time and we got to keep the meeting moving. So
okay.
We'll give you just a few.
Thank you, I will. Okay, lastly, it's time to do the right thing. It's time to clean up Beltline, Two Notch Road. This is your gateway to the city of Columbia. What will it say about us? What will it say about you who allowed it to happen? When good people allow bad things to happen, they're just as bad as those that committed the crime. And to the young man who's trying to do this, you guys have had 20, 25 years. You could have cleaned it up. And what makes us think that you're going to do it by December 31st? Okay. If I had to vote, I'd vote no. Thank you.
Thank you for your call. Okay, do we have anyone else on the line?
Hi, this is Andrew. Yes, this is Andrew. Erica is having some issues with her technology, so we do have a caller that is enabled to speak. If you're calling in on 381, a phone number starting with 381, please do go ahead and speak.
Hi, my name is Florence Butler, and I am a resident of the Belvedere community. I've been here over 45 years, and I just want to comment that this is an old neighborhood, but with being an old neighborhood, we have many amenities now. We're close to healthcare, entertainment, shopping, religious experience. We have seen over the last year or more the increase of our property value. And we have seen new businesses come into the area with the closing of the Piggly Wiggly. The Rose's Dollar Store came in. We have Nuttall Tire to move. We have a Family Dollar. And we will have soon a Dollar Tree coming to the area, as well as the Murphy Gas on the corner of Beltline and Two Notch. we are not against free enterprise for anyone, but we just feel that the impact of this towing service or storage service would be detrimental to our community. I checked the assessor's office, and the building on Mr. Washington's property was built back in 1950, and it was a place for fleet management for the Bell South AT&T. So if they had many cars there, then there's probably an underground storage tank. So for 25 years, there's an underground storage tank that was never, area was never cleaned up. So not only are they doing damage to in the ground, they will be bringing damaged cars that will leak oil and transmission fluid and whatever that will have other environmental deficit to the property. They showed you aerial view, but the Belvedere Community Organization submitted to you actual photos of the recent photos of the ground to show you how much junk's there, the torn tarp or whatever around the fence. And they also included all of the code violations that this site had received over the years. So we're not in need of another towing service. There are 3 towing services within the 5-mile radius. I just want you all to know that I'm very proud to live in Belvedere. The community is thriving. We have a lot of residents that are renting. So we do have a influx of younger people, but as a senior citizen of the Belvedere community, we would love for it to remain with a city, country-like atmosphere in the city. Thank you.
Ms. Butler, before you hang up, I'd like to ask you a question. Are you still on?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Butler, thank you for your call. I feel your passion, and that's really important. But let me ask you, so you testified and you mentioned the code violations, and I saw those horrible looking photos of the current conditions of the site. Do you not think, and do some of your neighbors not believe that this may be the opportunity that you're looking for to clean this site up?
Sir, I believe if you intended to do right by yourself and other people prior to coming in to make this request, there should have been an effort to try to remove some of the junk from the site. If you're going to sell your house, you're not going to bring people in without trying to do some kind of improvement.
I don't disagree. That's a good point. Let me follow up with one more question, then we'll let you go. I know you're busy too, but all right, let's say that as a board, we deny this request. Then if we do, that I want the neighborhood to realize you're almost certainly guaranteed for the current situation to stay the way it is. Have you thought about that?
Yes, sir. Sometimes it's better to remain as you are than to advance and be led down the path of worse resistance or worse,
Okay.
The neighbor, the lady that lives across the street, that's a familiar sight to her. She's used to seeing that. But then when you take away that and start bringing other things, the improvement should have started with demolition of the building, taking away the junk.
Okay. Thank you for your call, Ms. Butler. It's very helpful. We appreciate you calling in and your testimony, and we will certainly take what all you said into account. Thank you very much.
All right, and I think there might have been some voice messages left ahead of time if Andrew or Erica are able to play those in.
Yes, I'll begin playing the voicemails. Here you go.
Hi, my name is Patricia Johnson, and I'm calling from the Belvedere community about the towing service on Truman Street. I called to oppose that because that place right now is a dump. And they're not going to do anything but bring more cars there and wreak more havoc in this community. We're sick and tired of that dump over there. It's an eyesore from day one. Thank you and have a great day.
Okay, and there's a few more voicemails. I'll play them all in a row, and then I'll let you know when I'm done.
Thank you.
My name is Velma James, and I live in the Belvedere community, and I'm calling in reference to the towing service that they want to put at 2939 Truman Street. I am totally against that. I've been out here since 1982, and I don't think that's something that our community needs or wants. So I am not in favor of putting a towing service where I can stand on my front porch and look at every day. That is not something I think our community needs. Thank you.
My name is Anita Brown. I'm calling about the Belvedere community, this towing service. I'm calling to say that I oppose a towing service being put on Truman Street.
Yes, my name is Ms. Buff, and I'd like to call and make a comment about the zoning meeting for the towing service that's going to be at 2939 Truman Street. I would like to object to that because I already stay across the street from the building, and it is not cleaned up, and I think this would just be a bigger mess, and I don't think we need records towing cars in that may be left over there for a long period of time, and I would like to say that I am against it. Thank you.
Okay, so this is Andrew again. It looks like there's actually one more voicemail, but it's from a caller who had already played a voicemail. That would be Miss Patricia Johnson. So I can play that if you wish. I think it's materially the same.
Go ahead and play it, Andrew. Let's hear it real quick, and we'll move on.
Fair enough.
Good afternoon. This is Patricia Johnson. I'm a resident of the Belvedere community, and I want to let the zoning board know that I and others in Belvedere oppose towing service on Truman Street. Mr. Washington bought that property 20 years ago, and he found out that he wasn't getting any money through a grant or whatever with the empowerment zone. He did nothing. That's a junkyard for Benedict College and any other scraps or whatever he wants to put there. I sure wish you all could have went by there, or did you all go by there and take a look at that place yourself. It's an eyesore, been an eyesore for over 20 years. Please do not grant him a towing service, because we have junk cars and more junk. Thank you very much and have a great day.
Okay, and that concludes the voicemails that have been left. And I currently do not have any callers that have indicated they wish to speak.
Okay.
No new emails have come in either.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Washington and the other applicant, you're still on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now we're going to give you the opportunity for some rebuttal. You clearly heard the neighborhood's frustrations, let's call it. So what do you have to say as a response?
Well, as a response, first I would like to say I've had a chance to read their letters. I've had the chance to meet with some of the concerned community members face to face, and it seems to be a collective agreement that the property, since it was purchased over 20 years ago, has been defunct. And it was defunct for several years before my father purchased it, but it was clean at the time. He purchased it 20 years ago, and they said nobody's done anything with it since then. And I'm not here to argue that point at all, because I know there hasn't been a business there, and it has been somewhat I guess a place he's putting abandoned or extra things that he comes across. He's just laid there or has been there for a while. I'm not here to argue any of those things. I've agreed with every member I've met in the community that had opposition. And those things are an eyesore, and those things that you don't want to see when you walk out your doors or driving to school or coming from school or going to work or coming from work. And you don't want that to be your greeting point in your neighborhood. But as I expressed before, and I expressed to the members face to face, the ones that allowed me to meet with them and talk with them, I am not my father by any means. And I think that by you guys granting us or possibly granting us a tow yard, they think this is going to be a Willie Washington owned business. And it's not by any means. He has nothing to do with what it is that me and Kenny have set forth to do. And more importantly, as you asked Ms. Butler, you know, I wouldn't say a rebuttal on our behalf, but as you asked Ms. Butler, you know, if you allow us the opportunity to come in and clean up and do as we say we're going to do, I think both parties would be happy. If you don't allow us to come in, it was just like when we got the opposition before, yes, we would have to go and find another place, and that'll be that. But the property would still look the same as today. So I said to other community members, what do you really have to lose here? Let me and my partner come in and attempt to do what it is that we say we're going to do. And if it doesn't happen, I believe in black and white. If we don't do what we said we're going to do, please kick us out by all means. Take back your exemption, but we're just asking for the chance. Clearly, we've made the investment in our business. We've made that investment. I've worked as a professor for 8 years and the college athletic director for another 8 years. Kenny was a full-time patrolman for 8 years. We said we wanted to get into something that we can do ourselves. We didn't have to pay somebody else to do. We wanted to try our hand at entrepreneurship. We chose towing, and it's been very lucrative for us. And it's been we've been doing well with it. We're tedious guys. We're people who set goals and hit them. Okay, so
can I cut in?
Yes, sir.
Hey, so and just to respond, and I'll make it quick. We understand the community's desires to not have one based on previous behaviors. You know, they said that, hey, look, it's still a dump. Yeah, well, it is still a dump because we haven't been given permission to operate over there yet. So my deal is, for 25 years, it's been that. I'm 31 years old. Chad is 32. When that property was purchased, I was at Watkins Elementary before it was even Watkins Names. We can't control adults at that age to go clean up a property. That's out of place. That's not how we were raised to go tell our parents what to do. So now we have an opportunity. Now we're adults. We're educated. We understand business. We understand people. I'm not a betting man, but I would always bet on myself. And so we talked about a December deadline to get a fence up. I'm ready to put up a shut up. So we can get that fence up. We can get our property clean. Like Chad said, we just need opportunity. And we also just, and it only seems like, and not to take shots anyway, it only seems like the community, we just need them to understand just for a little bit. Just give us the opportunity just to step back and let us work. So let us show them what we're about and not Chad's father. And I think if we get that opportunity, everybody will be happy. They want to improve the community. They want to have opportunities come in for other businesses. They want to increase the value of their property. If we don't get this property, it'll stay the same for the next 20 years. And that's all we're saying is, you know, we respect the members of the community. We know them, we see them on a daily. Like I said, I live a half a mile from there. I know what that community is going through. We drive down those roads all the time. We have friends that went to high school with us that live there. So we just want an opportunity. And that's all. And if that community can work with us for a few months until we can get things that we promised, then we'll be so grateful for that opportunity.
Well, thank you for your rebuttal and response. Thank you very much. Okay, so at this time, we would like to move into board discussion then. So board members, we certainly have a interesting request here. I'd like to hear what everyone thinks about this. Who wants to start?
Well, as someone who lives a block away from Maxie Gregg Park, I certainly wouldn't like to see a towing company there because I use the park. But I would say that I'd probably rather see a towing company down in Five Points than some of the businesses that are down there now. I think that I hear what people are saying, but Gene, I think that you made a very good comment, which is that if we turn these guys down, then it's going to stay the same as it is, and subject to whatever code enforcement makes them do to clean it up. And I would like to see building in, like he said, he could build that brick wall, not a fence, a brick wall by the end of December. If we could put in that kind of a requirement, I'd be golden with that. I think that would be a dramatic improvement. Let them put their money where their mouth is.
Well, Rachel, can we, I know we're commonly, inserting things into motions. What would be the legality of something like that? What do you think?
I mean, you can put a condition that they have to have that by the end of the year, but all that would do would be, if it wasn't there, it'd be a zoning violation. I mean, you can't put a time limit on the actual special exception.
Right.
So you'd be able to say, like, it reverts back if they don't have the wall by December. All it would be is, if the wall's not there, we would issue a zoning violation.
And then what happens if they don't remedy the zoning violation?
Then a summons would be issued and they would get fined for each offense. So, I mean,
Right.
if it's not corrected, then yeah.
Right. It seems like that would be a good solution to the neighborhood concerns while improving the property.
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to understand what the neighborhoods are trying to be empathetic towards that, and I struggle with it because that property has sat there not being used to any potential for so long, and I feel like these guys sincerely want a chance to do something with it.
Well, it seems like it's been worse than not being used. It's been a dump.
Yeah. And for someone who's entrepreneurial, like, I want to give folks who want to be entrepreneurial a chance. So I'm inclined to try to give them a chance. If we want to put a condition on it, I'm all for that, to try to make the neighborhood feel a little bit better, I guess. But
I agree with Catherine and John, and that the other part of it is it's zone C3. So it's not they're trying to put this business in a residential zone.
Right.
It's near a residential zone, but the property itself is zone C3. So it truly is a commercial zone. And I know they have to come to the board for approval, but they've come on here and they've said that, this is an entrepreneurial opportunity for them. I think it's fantastic. I think that, they're saying the right stuff. And I agree with the fact that if they don't get the opportunity to move in there, what's going to happen? I mean, it's just going to remain and be more of the same. And I like the idea of imposing the requirement of a fence, which they said they're open to. And then, with the timeline, and I know that it would, it's not that it would revert the decision of this board, but, it's got penalties applied to it, which will motivate them to do it, which may not be necessary because they've already said they would. So I think we've got an improvement of the property in front of us, the opportunity to improve it. Those are
I
my.
also think the neighbors raised some of the environmental concerns about potential underground storage tanks and other environmental issues. I mean, that's beyond the purview of this committee. I would invite them, if they believe there's an issue, to get DHEC involved. And if that is a concern, I would just suggest that.
Well, I hate to kind of repeat what everybody else has said, but like we've heard reports that it's been an eyesore for over 20 years. And if there's not some change, it'll continue to be an eyesore. If these guys are given a period of time to do some of the things and clean it up, I too think that, especially if we give them a time frame and there are legal remedies if they don't comply, there are some remedies if they don't comply. I think we should, I would be inclined to vote in favor of giving them a chance.
Yeah, I mean, all we have is their testimony. So we have to take them for their word. My personal opinion is we've got two very sincere sounding applicants that I believe what they're saying. And, it is located across the street from a residential area, but John, you brought up a good point, or Catherine, or one of y'all, it is zoned commercial. And some of the callers, or some of the passionate callers, and I understand and I appreciate their concerns. Some of the stuff they said is just not true. I mean, you're not going to put one of these in Shandon, or if you may, but it's going to be on a commercially zoned adjacent parcel. So, it's just, sometimes there's some commercial areas that are right beside residential areas, and this is one of them. So anyway, just based on the applicant's testimony and based on the responses to the criteria for the special exception, I would agree with the rest of you that I think we need to give them a chance to improve this area. So with that being said, if there's not anyone else on the board that would like to weigh in here, if there's not, would like to ask for a motion.
Can I add something real quick? Just
Yes,
from
please.
that perspective, just looking through the code violations that are still active at the site. I mean, to apply for a business license, just because the board approves a special exception, and this is more directed to neighborhoods, does not automatically mean the business can come in scot-free. There are inspections that are done, and there are land development requirements that must be met. That, I mean, if those buildings are not safe for occupancy, there's going to have to be work done. So there will have to be improvements done through those reviews as well. So I just want to make sure that's known too, that fire building inspections are done before a business license is even issued, with some of those cleanups and corrections.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for clarifying that for us. Okay, so if no one else wants to comment.
Mr. Chair, this is Andrew Livingood.
Hey,
I did want to mention that I did want to mention there is a caller with their hand raised. It is one of the callers, I think, that did leave a voicemail.
And we've already played the voicemail, correct?
Oh, and actually, take it back. I'm looking at a transcription of them speaking. Let me. And actually, I just refreshed, and it looks like they no longer have their hands raised.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you, Andrew. All right. Okay, so at this, well, the public period for public comment is closed. So we've had plenty of public comment. We're moving on. So thank you, Andrew, but we're not taking.
Okay.
So at this point, we'd like to ask for a motion.
I move that we approve the application subject to staff comments and with the additional proviso that screening satisfactory to the zoning administrator be completed and put in place prior to December 31st, 2021.
Second.
I'm gonna ask that you be a little more specific about that. That's pretty open-ended as to
Oh, okay.
satisfactory to me.
All right. How
This is
about they said they were going to
permanent.
put a brick wall, that
Permanent brick structure.
solid brick wall, otherwise in compliance with zoning, or that would meet the approval of the zoning administrator, be completed along the Truman Street frontage.
Thank you.
Does that work for you, Rachel?
That's better. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Now,
Before we get a second, Catherine, good motion, and I like your thought there. I think that would help. But just as a real quick point of discussion for us, I mean that's going to be really expensive.
They said they'd do it.
They did. I'm just making sure that we don't. I mean, I heard you and I heard them, and they did, but gosh, I mean, they got to tow a lot of cars to pay for that one wall, and I just want to make sure we don't kill this business, because I know that's not what you're trying to do.
Well, but they're talking about that one wall. We're talking about bricks along the Truman Street frontage.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
May I interject? I'm sorry.
yes, good time.
Okay, so I guess in pictures of the walls that we were thinking about, well, not thinking, would like to build to the committee.
Well, I mean, I don't know that that's necessary. Here's the question. Ms. Finner has brought up a motion for approval, and she wants to write in about constructing a wall, which you said you would do. I'm just making sure you realize how expensive it's going to be to construct a 400-foot brick wall or whatever this is.
So like the wall we were seeing, it's a mix between brick. I don't want to call the gating or whatever aluminum, because I don't know the material right now. But it's not like one. The entire wall is not all brick, if that makes sense.
What is it? Brick and what?
Yeah.
It is brick, aluminum, and there's another material. I believe they use it for, it's like a new deck material.
Oh, like Prex?
Is it Prex? Is that what it's called?
Something like that?
I believe that's what it is. It's not wood.
Okay. Well, let me interject quickly then. Well, Kevin, what about this? Why does it really matter to the neighborhood or us or anyone what sort of a wall the material of the wall? Why don't you, what would you think about amending your motion, same thing, just to say a wall?
Okay.
Okay.
So amended.
Okay. All right. Well, good. Very good. We've got a motion. I forget. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. A motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay. Very good. Motion passes. Good luck, applicants. I think you can do it, and we're trusting you will do it. So good luck.
Man, thank you, board members. We appreciate your time.
Some cars there.
Yeah. Okay. I need to step away for just a second. So
What, Rachel, why don't we take about a 3-minute board recess here? Let her stretch her legs for just a second.
All right.
All right, so the next matter is case 2021-0012 for 2025 and 2223 Rembert Street. This is a variance to the maximum fence height requirement in the front yard setback. I do want to just note this is kind of step one in the process. They are within a design preservation district, so they will be going to DDRC as well. But I believe the applicant is on the line, and he is welcome to give us a review of his request.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Yes, we can.
Okay, you know what? I like when one of you said, let's rock, and I'm going to say, let's roll. So basically, you know, we moved here to Rembert Street April the 1st, and we soon realized that we had come into a very unique situation because everyone here has welcomed us as family. And so that said, after purchasing 2225 Rembert Street in April, we decided to purchase the adjacent lot 2223 in hopes of having a larger yard for the dog, and secondly, to eventually build a pool. we had contracted Viking Contractors to go ahead and build the first fence, which surrounded 2225. But then when purchasing 2223, we realized let's go ahead and move the fence from 225 to 2223, which is now between 2223 and 2221 Rembert Street. That said, we went with a 6-foot high fence, primarily for privacy and security purposes. And so, as we all know, we received a letter of violation, which, I assured whomever I spoke, we will work with you because we are community members and we're part of the Elmwood community family. So our request is to go ahead and see what can be done so that we can keep the 6-foot high fence. If not, what are some other things that we can do without having to spend a lot of money?
Okay. Understood. Pulling up your application quickly.
And our contractor was kind enough to go ahead and complete the application for us. One thing I did want to add, folks, is that the side yard, if you will, 2225, 2223, it slopes down towards the backyard. And so I know that, the stipulations that the fence has to be no higher than 4 feet. That becomes problematic in terms of privacy, number one, and number two, security for the dog not getting out.
How do you pronounce your first name? I don't want to miss.
Oh, you know what? It's Egon. I go by Frank.
Frank. Okay, Frank. Appreciate that.
Sure.
Just for clarification, I may have missed it. What side again is the fence, or where is it? On the 3 sides, the sides in the back?
It is the side of the house. If you're facing the house, it would be to the left side.
Mm-hmm.
And it's parallel to Rembert Street. It's probably about 20 feet away from the sidewalk. Mm-hmm. And we did put in some plant material in hopes of putting in some more landscaping so the fence isn't as much in your face, if you will.
Yep.
And then one thing I was thinking, I'm 6 feet tall. If I get on my knees, I'm maybe 4 feet tall. And I thought because the land slopes, once you go beyond the fence there to come into the yard itself, by appearance, we could actually add some more soil to the front part of that yard, bring it up 2 feet. And if you bring it up 2 feet, there we go, bring it up 2 feet. Now you've got a 4-foot high fence on the side facing Rembert, but we still have that 6-foot high fence for privacy and security reasons.
Okay, any other members have any questions for the applicant?
Nope.
Okay, Rachel, did we receive any public input on this one?
We have a letter.
I believe I sent you all a letter ahead of time from a neighbor. No new emails have come in. I'll turn to Erica and Andrew to see if anyone has called in on the matter.
We don't have any callers on the line, no emails or voicemails.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any board discussion regarding this matter?
Folks, just one thing. I'm sorry. Can I interject one comment when we look at this picture?
Go ahead.
We have to have a little break. It's been a long day for you, I'm sure. So coincidentally, we received Yard of the Month award for the month of February. And then if you face the wall, there's a big citation with a Zorro, if you will, that, there's going to be a hearing. So I thought, how coincidental that here we are, Yard of the Month for Elmwood. And we get the poster as well.
I must say that is kind of funny, honestly.
And so I bring to you gratitude for being here. We moved down here for the DC metro area. Okay. I'm a retired school principal, and it's one of the best things I did aside from retiring 5 years ago as a principal is moving to Columbia and being a family member of the Elmwood community, I should say, excuse me.
Well, you have a beautiful home. Okay, do we have any board discussion regarding this matter?
This is Jenna. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, Jenna.
I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm back. I had some technical difficulties. I was trying to speak on the last application.
Shoot.
Nothing would have changed. It's fine. My vote would have been the same. But this is my first time on the iPhone, and I had to do something I didn't know. So thank you, Mr. Kaplan, for your application. This looks pretty straightforward to me and thorough.
Gene, can we make a motion?
Absolutely. How about it, John? Go ahead.
I move that we make a motion to approve this variance subject to staff comments.
Second.
Second, third.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Very good.
All right, moving on. We have item 2021-0013. This is a variance for 7 Heathwood Circle. This is a variance for the maximum height requirement for a wall. I believe the applicant is on the line. They can unmute themselves and give us a brief overview of their application.
Hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, I'm Jay Rooney, owner of 7 Heathwood Circle. I purchased the house in October of 2018. And as you can see, number 3 Heathwood or 5 Heathwood Circle to the right of my house has a white brick wall that is 8 feet in height, which separates our 2 yards in the backyard. And the house to my rear, which is 820 Albion, also has an 8-foot brick wall that covers half of my backyard. You can see where it stops there. And the house at 818 Albion does not have a wall. So for privacy and for the sake of pets, we're simply asking to extend the wall in the rear of our backyard to the corner of our property to adjoin another brick wall. And we're requesting that the variance be accepted so that we can make it aesthetically like the 2 walls that exist to our rear and to the right of our house. They're both 8 feet. And having a lower wall, we feel like would just look odd and not as pleasing to us as well as the neighbors to our rear and on the sides of our house. So it's really just as simple as that. We just want to pick up where the wall stops in the backyard, tie it into the the left side there, and make it the same height.
Certainly a very reasonable request. Do any board members have any questions for the applicant? Okay, wouldn't think so. Rachel, do we have any public input regarding this matter?
I don't see any new emails. We had a couple of calls, but I think it was more just asking about what the request was. I'll see if Erica has anyone on the line who wishes to speak for or against.
At this time, we have no callers, no emails.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any board discussion? Okay, well, I'd like to ask for a motion, please.
I move that we approve the request subject to staff comments.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Rooney.
Thank you.
All right, the next item is case 2021-0019 for 2420 Shop Road. This is special exception to permit a scrapyard. I believe the applicant is on the line and they are welcome to overview their case.
Okay, applicant, are you there?
Yes, we are. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Our engineering is going to speak first.
Okay.
Are you there, Laura?
Is my audio not on?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Can y'all hear me? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, good evening, Mr. Chairman, board, and staff. Thank you for your time. I am Laura Dukes, a licensed landscape architect, and was hired to assist the Dickens Sheets with this Board of Zoning Appeals review of the proposed land use for 2420 Shop Road property. This property is currently zoned M2 Heavy Industrial Districts, and quoting from your ordinance, it is intended to accommodate primarily those uses of a manufacturing and industrial nature, and secondarily, those uses which are functionally related thereto, such as distribution, storage, and processing. The allowable uses are identified by classification codes taken from the Standard Industrial Code, which is SIC code for short, which identify the primary line of business of a company. The Columbia City Code M2 zoning allows outright wholesale trade durable goods 501 categories. 501 categories classify motor vehicles and automotive parts and supplies. The Standard Industry Code 5015, motor vehicle parts used, of which American operates under, is defined as establishments primarily engaged in the distribution of used motor vehicle parts. This industry includes establishments primarily engaged in dismantling motor vehicles for the purpose of selling parts. Establishments primarily engaged in dismantling for scrap are classified in Industry 5093. I apologize for giving y'all Lesson 101 and SIC codes, but it's very relevant. Previous on-site activities since 2011 were operating a business under SIC code 5093, oil waste wholesale, a use permitted upon review by this board. Oil waste is, however, a different scrap material, but still Industry Code 5093. With those oil waste operations in place, the Dickens Sheets did not believe any of their intended primary nor secondary uses would be prevented to operate on site. So no dishonesty in their actions should be assumed by the city or any other associations. The Business American's primary industry 5015 is allowed by city ordinance and should continue to be allowed by the city and this board as a direct interpretation of city ordinance. The secondary use of scrap code 5093 and 7399 Recycle Center upon this request should also be allowed as a use permitted on review by this board. The business owner is prepared to comply with all city and state ordinances and federal regulations that apply to the site and to their operations. They are willing to properly screen inoperable or untagged vehicles. They are also willing to preserve the appropriate buffers identified in the City of Columbia Stormwater Management Water Quality Stream Buffer requirements. No new site disturbance, construction, or paving will take place at the current time. And if in the future development plans change, they will comply with site development regulations in place to obtain those necessary development permits. Recycling is necessary and a public obligation. American is doing their part to ensure materials are actually being processed for recycling, which often does not occur today. Items are often collected but not actually recycled. This site is perfect for their operation with proximity to rail and interstate, as well as being convenient to the public. They are willing to be a good neighbor and a good community member. And with that, I'd like Tim Dickens Sheets Sr. of American Metal is going to speak toward their experience with operating this type of business.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members, and staff. My name is Tim Dickens Sheets Sr. I carry over 40 years experience in the health, safety, security, environmental quality, and regulatory compliance from international and U.S. regulations. My objective here is to help this business get up and running in compliance with all city, local, state, federal regulations, the staff training programs in place, and adhere to all environmental and permitting requirements for this property and this business operation. Thank you.
I would like to say that, you know, given the opportunity, we want to bring something to the community. We want to make something, you know, out of this property that's been sitting for some time in the surrounding properties. You know, give jobs, give money to the city, you know, and that's what we're here. We're going to follow all the rules and regulations that are set forth. We're surrounded by industrial, and we're going to, you know, stick to the same thing. So that's basically all I have to say too.
Well, thank you for your presentation. Let's back up just a bit. Had a lot of detail at the very beginning. I'm not familiar with this type of business. I see your name here. Give us just a 30-second overview of what it is you do, who your clients are, sort of what this is. I'm not sure myself.
So American Recycling is basically a family-owned business. We are statewide. You know, we've done recycling for the Fort. We've done other means of recycling for counties. You know, Florence County and stuff like that. You know, for the drop-off sites. This facility is just really, you know, going to be used for the wholesale parts, you know, the distribution of parts, to streamline, you know, the procedures in doing so, and making more effort in taking, you know, smaller parts out of the vehicles for sale and or for recycling at that means. So we're statewide. You know, we have a good background. You know, like I said, we've done a lot of the Fort Jackson recycling here locally. We've done waste management, you know, drop-off sites for counties. So that's about the 30 seconds of it. We employ 50 people, you know, so we're a good mid-sized business, you know, family operated, family owned.
So can a contractor, for example, would you, trying to get a feel for your day-to-day operations, would a contractor be able to bring you 200 feet of chain link fence that's no longer in use?
No, we're not doing that here at this facility.
So your clients, so is the public, I mean, can the general public bring you stuff, or you just?
No, so mostly our clients would be, you know, local tow yards, insurance companies, and therefore, so it wouldn't be, you know, we're not really using this for a general public facility. No, sir.
And it's specific to vehicles, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Let me interject just a minute here. This is Laura again. There's kind of two issues here. We have an M2 zoning classification, which allows outright use of the 501 categories. And that is what I read as the industry code primarily engaged in dismantling motor vehicles for the purpose of selling parts, which is what they're operating now. There are two requests included in this that will allow a future recycle center, should that opportunity be needed in the area, as well as scrap. Now, I believe there was some controversy when going for business license and zoning of what the actual business appeared to be, and without further investigation and detailed conversations with the owners and the on-site management, it was just deemed, let's go ahead for this BOZO request to have these additional uses. So the dismantling of vehicle parts is allowed by your current zoning.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that. I was not aware of that. So this request then is for a potential future portion of the business. You can operate as is, but you're requesting in case you wish to expand. Is that right?
That is our interpretation of your zoning ordinance. Rachel can probably speak for differently. I know y'all had inspectors go out and view, and whether or not they were looking for a Napa Auto Parts center or not, but
I'm just trying to get
definition.
a feel for what it is you're asking us. Unless any other board members are clear, what are you asking us for? That's
Well, number one, which I don't think that we have to be asking, it's a difference in zoning's opinion of how the business is operating or what is operating. So that is included. That's the dismantling of the auto parts. That may or may not be your purview to decide.
Rachel, could you help
Secondary-
us out here? I'm really lost in.
I am too. Well, hang on. Hang on.
I want to make it clear, Laura, this is not an administrative appeal. This is not you versus me.
Yeah.
You requesting a special exception from the board to operate your facility. I have determined that it falls under 5093 for American Scrap Iron and Metal through your name, as well as through investigation from my inspectors, from the stacks of cars that are on the site. I understand that there is some dismantling and sales of parts, but through investigation of other locations of your business and through discussions with stormwater, it is determined that there are some other scrap materials on your site for recycling. I mean, is your
Okay,
website
so-
not an accurate depiction of your business?
So Laura, you could address that unless
Yeah,
you need
I
some
don't
help.
think the website even includes the ShopRite facility, and that's the difference of having the different facilities. But if that is Rachel's interpretation of the business operations that are going on there, then yes, we're asking to be able to operate a business that dismantles cars and sells used auto parts, as well as, let me look at the exact application, and I think that probably clarifies verbiage. Request to expand uses to include 5093 scrap and waste materials as described by 5093 and 7399 Recycle Center.
My ears glaze over when you throw lots of numbers in. So words. So you're operating, Rachel, your interpretation is that they're essentially operating a junkyard for which they would need a special exception.
Scrapyard. Yep.
Correct.
Okay.
So,
That is,
yes,
We're here-
so wholesale distribution of scrap materials, as well as, I mean, there may be some wholesale distribution of auto parts occurring as well, which they are correct. Distribution of engines and specific auto parts does fall under 501, but there are other parts and this.
So the delta
Yes.
is the junk aspect of it, the scrap metal part of it.
Correct. So, and I think that in previous discussions, there was some current concern about the fact that it says scrap and waste. I'm not saying that they are waste materials. I want to make sure that I understand that. So there are just different categories that fall under both SIC codes. So I don't want them to be too hung up on that, but that is what you all are reviewing, is the scrap side and the recycling of the scrap.
so Rachel, if let's just say, I have no idea where this is going to go. What if we do not approve this request? Is their business not able to operate? Period?
We'll have to break it down quite specifically as to what entails the sale of the wholesale distribution of auto parts versus having stacks of cars on the property for long periods of time.
Okay, well, for the applicant, are you in business today at this location? Is that correct?
We are just dismantling the vehicles that are on the premises right now, not taking in any new vehicles.
Okay, so you're hoping to get in business to do what it is you do with the granting of this request.
Well, yes,
There's a business license issued at this location.
Okay, well, then, sure, multi-layered, but okay, starting to get us forward at least. This one is confusing.
As the engineer stated, is that the premise of when we did begin operation here, we were under what we felt was an acceptable business permit to allow the taking in material and parting, taking the cars into wholesale the parts. That's when this all came about. Is okay. The declaration of 501 and 5093 discrepancies, I believe, came into play, and that's when they asked me to get involved from the stormwater permit, the environmental impact aspects, and so forth, to make sure that to go forward with the viability of the business and possible future business model, which the codes and neighboring industrial environments are currently operating, that we do it the right way. I think I think everyone has heard throughout the night, good citizenships, good neighbor, making sure that we're doing during an operation in a safe and environmental continuity to the regulations that are under our code, basically.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, now I think we've got an idea of what it is to do. Board members, questions for the applicants?
I do. So it sounds like you're dismantling cars, using them for scrap, that sort of thing. Are you obtaining a permit from the U.S. EPA Office of Water to do that right next to the Gills Creek watershed?
I believe the requirement of a stormwater permit, an SWPPP within the city is a requirement, and that, yes, we would comply with that requirement.
Okay, so
add on to that, John, I spoke with the stormwater manager of the city this afternoon. Because it is industrial, it's actually above us. It's through DHEC and SLED.
Okay, no problem. So is it the intent to operate a true scrapyard? Is that this? Because to me, that's different than dismantling vehicles. Like Gene was getting at, is do you someday want to have the public come in and bring in metal scrap that you could recycle in that manner?
I mean, we want to leave all doors open, but no, our intent is to sell wholesale parts. I mean, you know, maximize every piece of a vehicle that is able to be, you know, maximized. That's the intent of this facility. You know, 5 years from now or whatever, I mean, you know, the intent is, you know, wholesale parts, you know, but you know, you don't want to leave any door closed. And, you know, and actually I think Zoni's the one who really wanted us to go forth with this anyways.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Rachel, can you? Oh, this is Jenna. Hey, Gene. Y'all can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to clarify. Any permits they're required to get from DHEC, we have no. That doesn't come into account when we're making our decision, right? I mean, this is not anything that we can consider.
As to stormwater.
That's the stormwater, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that comes through their review. They will review and determine if their product and storage area can be located where it's shown on that plan, and if they're able to operate in the manner that they wish to operate in those terms.
Okay.
So to really make it like zoning for dummies, like this case for dummies, we're basically saying the impact on the surrounding area of this, not counting environmental impact because that's somebody else's concern, is relevant, and it is currently surrounded by industrial uses. Is an industrial use being surrounded by industrial uses? Is that really a fair assessment?
Correct.
Similar.
And Catherine, to piggyback on that, I know some of the letter writers said that they didn't think that this property should be zoned, industrial, and that's also something that we can't control. We can grant exceptions, but we cannot change the underlying zoning designation. That's something to take up with city council if you feel that that's incorrect.
You can petition to have it rezoned.
Yeah, but we can't do that.
Yeah, great point, Jenna. Jenna's just, I think she's just simply trying to say, look, they write a letter of opposition regarding the current zoning of the property. I mean,
Right. Now, I understand what you're saying. Okay, yeah, okay. Well, it seems like we don't have any real beef here. I mean, we don't have any problems as far as I can see.
Well, let's don't drift too far into board discussion.
I'm sorry.
Just yet, we're going to. So
I'm trying to understand. I got lost in the sick.
Me too. I hear you. I was confused for a while what we were even trying.
Would you rather have us talk roof slopes?
Actually, I understand roof slopes a lot better than I understand words, but numbers I know what SIC codes are. That gets me way ahead of the game. But besides that, I'm not.
All right.
Believe me, 40 years in federal code of regulations, I understand completely.
Do we have any other questions for the applicant regarding this request from board members? Okay, good. All right, Rachel, I know we saw an email or two about this, I believe. How about our public input portion of the?
Yeah, and I just want to make sure it's clear because I think, again, the board's getting hung up on SIC codes. That's not what you need to get hung up on. So there's distribution of auto parts such as automobile engines and used parts, wholesale or retail, but then there's also distribution of scrap, any kind of scrap and waste material, wholesale, textile, iron and steel scrap, metal scrap, that all falls under the scrap and waste material that their request is coming under today. So I just want to make sure that that is clear.
Sure.
Yes, we do have, I did send you all letters from Gills Creek Watershed and Congaree River Keeper. We had another letter come in from Whitney Denton. I'll read that into the record. I am in opposition of the zoning change to allow scrap at 2420 Shop Road. First reason, they are currently operating this business without the proper zoning. You see cars stacked 3+ and higher. It is visible from both Shop and Beltline. It is an eyesore in an area that needs to be cleaned up from years past. I watched another delivery of cars coming in on Monday morning. They're operating this business regardless of zoning. If they are willing to disregard proper guidelines for zoning, they likely won't be compliant for such thing as contamination. Second, we're already dealing with contamination from Intertape polymer. This will only make it worse. I doubt they're draining off fluids from these vehicles before seeping into the soil. Third, this area should be a gateway to our downtown area and not look like an industrial area. If we're building a greenway on the other line, why would we dump this just beyond? Dump being the key word. The residents in the near areas deserve better, as do all of the parents and city residents that drive to Heathwood Hall down this corridor. They may not reside right here, but they're fully aware of how badly this looks. They comment after they cross the railroad tracks that will damage your car and your wallet, and cross Shop Road. They see a newer building on the left that looks nice, a bowling alley, Starbucks, and such at Bluff Road. But Beltline looks awful between Plowden and Shop. It's sad when the kids comment how sketchy that area is. Thank you, Whitney E. Denton. I don't think any other emails have come in, but I will see if Erica and Andrew have anyone on the line.
At this time, we just have a voicemail that can be played in from a Carmony Adler with Gills Creek.
Okay.
Hi, this is Carmony Adler with Gills Creek Watershed Association about 2021-0019-SE. Our association strongly recommends that this exemption not be granted because the scrapyard is sited so directly adjacent to drainage into Gills Creek. It's not just the direct harm to water quality, which is already impaired, or the degradation to the surrounding land and wildlife. We also know that community members catch and eat fish from Gills Creek while others use it for recreation. Really, this is an argument of precedent and not allowing businesses that produce harmful pollutants to be located so close to our bodies of water. And for those that are located close to the creek, they need to have critical and proper protections in place to prevent contamination. Thank you.
Okay, well, I guess that will conclude the public input portion. Is that correct, Rachel? That's all for public.
We do now have one caller that needs to be
Please,
speak.
Please do.
Hi, my name is Tom Colsat, and I'm a board member of the Gills Creek Watershed Association. I'm here kind of to certainly second Carmony's comments in her letter. Also might want to point out a couple of other items. This whole area is zoned heavy industry, but it doesn't seem to be heavily used for industry right now. It was in the past, of course. And a significant factor here is that this is all built on former floodplain. If you have access to the supporting documents and have that overhead aerial shot, is that something y'all are looking at? It's page 1 of the supporting documents. I'll just describe it quickly. It's a view of the whole industrial complex. Surrounding it is all land colored kind of green. That's actually the Gills Creek floodplain. And before the industrial sites came along and the site was filled, that was also Gills Creek floodplain. So there's a good chunk of land here displacing the floodplain, causing further flooding downstream and upstream from here. We witnessed that in the 2015 floods. So I know you all said in your discussion that you're not in the business of changing zoning, but I wonder if it's possible to defer action on the special exception and refer the zoning question back to City Council, because this looks like an opportunity to kind of migrate away from using this area as an industrial setting. We understand that auto scrap yards have to go somewhere, but along a creek that has enough environmental problems already doesn't sound like the best place. So I'm wondering if one of the options you might look at is deferring action on this until the whole question of zoning can be addressed. Thank you.
Tom, before you go, are you still on?
Yes.
Okay, Tom, this is Gene Dinkins Jr. Let me interject real quick. The answer to your question is no, in no way, shape, or form. A zoning change has to be requested by the applicant only, goes in front of Planning Commission, and then goes to vote at City Council. So we have absolutely nothing to do to that. We will not request that. The answer is no. Okay, just want to get that for the record. Secondly, I am sensitive to the Gills Creek Watershed Association's opinions and feelings here. Tom, I was a founding member and a former vice chairman of the Congaree Riverkeeper organization. So I'm sensitive to these issues. I was one of the very few people who founded that organization in 2009. But I need to point out here, the Watershed Association's beef here is not with us. We have nothing to do with anything to do with stormwater requirements or anything that you all are asking for. We simply, our hands are tied. We have to depend on others, which in this case, Rachel said would be DHEC and SLED, to enforce the stormwater rules as they are written. So I just, for the record, want to let you know, any ruling by this board cannot in any way, shape, or form take into account stormwater issues. So we appreciate and understand your concern. That's what your group does, and you do a great job at it. But that's just simply out of the board's hands today.
Yeah, I see. Well, then let me ask you this. In the supporting documents, beyond the table of allowed uses under the exemption, there are some sort of footnotes to that table. And the very last one says that the Board of Zoning Adjustments can approve the exception with some restrictions, taking into consideration downstream uses. Or not downstream, adjoining uses. And that would seem to include, if you would call Gills Creek a functioning floodplain system, that would be considered an adjoining use, and you would need to take that into consideration and impose some restrictions accordingly. One restriction that probably would come up anyway under the SWPPP, to throw an acronym at you, is just have a setback. There is a ditch that runs along the east side of the property. It's improperly labeled as Gills Creek on the application, but it's actually a ditch that drains into Gills Creek. And it seems like under the SWPP regs, there would need to be a setback there and some effort to treat it, maybe with a wet pond or something before it gets to that ditch. So it looks like if I'm reading all of the the alphabet soup right on the board's authorization, you do have the ability to impose some restrictions, and I would urge you to exercise your ability to do that if you grant the exception.
Well, thank you for your comments, and thank you for your call. We will certainly further discuss this. I respectfully disagree with you on that. There's a stormwater pollution prevention plan that none of us on this board are more qualified than the many, many hours and people who wrote the plan and enforced the laws. So I thank you for your call, and we'll move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess that's going to conclude the public input portion.
Is there anybody else, Erica?
Okay.
No, there's no one else.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, applicants, now is your opportunity for rebuttal. You've heard some of the public's input. What do you have any rebuttal to their input?
Respectfully, no. We've already stated our case and said that we'll comply with whatever restrictions are imposed on anyone in a similar classification or site location as ours.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, at this point, let's move into board discussion. What do you think?
Well, one thing that I heard that seemed it might be within our purview is about the screening. The woman who was taking your children to Heathwood or whatever, complaining that you could see the cars from the road. That seemed the one thing that would be within our purview. Is that?
Great point. Why not screen something like this or make sure they do? I mean, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, the rest of it seems like that's outside of our, I'm not happy about it. I'm with you. I'm a big river person myself.
Yeah, but it's not where we can't control that.
That's right.
Other board members, what do you think?
I think this is kind of similar to the case where the tow yard is. And so I'm in favor of approving their request to cut to the chase. I will say, just for the record, I don't necessarily think it's the highest and best use of this property, as I would think this is a gateway to Columbia, but that has nothing to do with this request, nothing to do with us. And yeah, I just want to say that. So I would be in favor of approving this request, subject to the fence, subject to staff comments.
Okay, anyone else? Jenna, Marcellus, John Ginyard?
Yeah, I agree. I think what's before us in the application, it's an industrial site, and they have filled out the application adequately. And I agree with John that maybe this isn't what I would like to go see in this spot. But the one thing that we do have control over is the fencing, and if we can add that in any motion, I'd approve that.
Agreed.
Yeah, I agree. I echo everything that's been said. Looks like a big salvage yard. It sounds like an automobile salvage yard, and like I said, to keep it from being an eyesore for the people who are traveling to Heathwood, some fencing or something for aesthetics or cosmetics, I would be inclined to go along with it.
I will say that this one actually is Sanford and Son, unlike the previous one.
And this
salvage yard.
Typically, when you travel to Heathwood, you go down Beltline, and not that anybody, but the people coming from Shop Road and Atlas Road, they're probably more likely to see this. And I know that Intertape Polymer Group has moved out to Blythewood, so they're no longer there and it's not under use anymore. But it sounds like the true question here is they're permitted to dismantle vehicles and sell parts and pieces without asking for our approval. The question is, can they receive fencing and regular scrap material and recycle it, which seems way less obtrusive to the watershed than what they're already approved to do. So I can't imagine stopping it and or opposing it. And then I'm all for improving this whole area from a beautification standpoint, but even with the fence, it's like, do you put it on Beltline right there so that that 40 feet of Beltline frontage has a fence blocking the view? Or are you talking about all down Shop Road? I don't know. I mean, I'm all for like this one. And then if somebody ever comes to the Intertape Polymer Group old site, then we add the fence there. So eventually you have some sort of fencing, but it's just such an industrial area already. It really just, I'm with approving it, and with all the comments made so far, and would hope that the Gills Watershed Association and Congaree River Keeper would, take their beef up with the zoning.
Good comments, John. Well, I think we've heard from everyone. Who would like to make a motion on this matter?
Can I say something real quick?
Yes.
Sorry, I just want to make sure it's noted that there's already a staff condition that any inoperable vehicles will have to be screened from public use anyway. So if you all want to expand on that, you can, but there is a staff condition in there as well about screening the vehicles.
Rachel, there's also wasn't there a 15-day vehicles can be housed no more than 15 days?
The applicant said that. So the applicant put in their materials that vehicles would not be on site for more than 15 days.
Is that complete vehicles or dismantle? Anyway, that's
to be housed for no more than 15 days.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, very good. Let's get a motion.
I move that we approve, subject to staff comments, with particular note of the screening requirements.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes.
All right, the next item on the agenda is case 2021-0021 at 201 Moore Hopkins Lane. This is a special exception to permit a multifamily residential development. If the applicant is on the line, they're welcome to present their case.
Good evening. This is Rob Coates with the Banyan Foundation. Thank y'all very much for allowing us to present this to the zoning board tonight and asking for a special exception. so that we can build a multifamily affordable housing senior project there on the property. This is going to be a 90-unit proposed building, 4 stories, 1 bedroom and 2 bedrooms. With this, on the special exception, we will not have substantial adverse impact on vehicle traffic or vehicular and pedestrian safety. And we adequate provisions, hopefully with the proposed exceptions for parking and for loading and unloading. We will not have a substantial adverse impact on adjoining properties in terms of environment, factor of noise, lights, glare, vibration, fumes, due to the fact that this area is primarily commercial, and this will be a multifamily with only the northeast side having residential on there. So this will add a great deal to this. We'll also be putting in buffers for our particular tenants that will aid from the buffering and the lights that will be coming in from other commercial properties, and also noise from other commercial properties. We don't feel like we'll have an adverse effect on the aesthetics of the area. Again, due to the fact that the majority of it is commercial, we'll be coming in and putting in a nice multifamily property on the on this particular project, and it will enhance and hopefully enhance the residential side values as well as the other values in the particular areas. We don't think we're going to have any adverse effect on public safety. We know for a fact we're not going to create a nuisance or condition detrimental to the public interest. At least that's what our hope is. We will have full-time manager on staff and maintenance on staff, and that will aid and allow us to come and oversee our particular tenants as well as to make sure the property is maintained satisfactory to all parties around us. We don't think that we're going to have a concentration or proliferation of similar types due to the fact, again, this is a primarily commercial area. There is some single family properties that I indicated before on the northeast side, but that's literally it. The character and intent of the underlying district is indicated in the zoning district description and with applicable zoning overall overlay district goals and requirements. We think it is appropriate for the location and compatibility with everyone in the community. And we feel like that the permitted use would be favorable to all parties adjacent to us as well as near us in the neighborhood. And lastly, we don't think this is going to be adversely affect any of the public interest in the area. I am open to answer any questions, or if I'm too succinct and too direct, I apologize, but I wanted to make sure that I just came in and answered the questions and tried to come in and be very direct on what we're trying to propose.
Thank you. Your application is thorough and does a very good job answering the 8 questions that we're asked to look at. So thank you very much. Do any board members have any questions? Very good. Okay, Rachel, do we have any public input regarding this matter?
I did send you all one letter from a Gary Morris. Nothing else has come in since that letter. I will see if Erica has anybody on the line.
Board members, do you recall, was that letter in favor or opposition?
I can read it into the record if you want, or I can
remind us who is it from. And there have been so many letters, and your screen is taking up my screen.
And it's Hainsworth Sinclair Boyd.
Okay, it's the Hainsworth letter.
Yeah.
It was from the neighbor. It wasn't for or against. They were just explaining uses nearby.
So the Hainsworth letter is on the other project.
I'm sorry?
There's a letter from Hainsworth Sinclair Boyd, but that's on the other project.
No, that's this one.
It's on this one.
It's.
I tell you what.
I'm saying basically you're coming to the nuisance is essentially what he's trying to tell us.
Rachel, read.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
I'll read it.
Yep. Thank you.
Let me pull it up here. Or it's 3 pages, so I'm gonna.
Just read the first paragraph.
Please accept this letter about the special exception request to allow multifamily. Our firm represents Carolina Gas Transmission, the owner and operator of Carolina Gas Transmission Greystone Campus on the adjacent property at 121 Moore Hopkins Lane. Our client does not oppose a multifamily housing development. However, we believe it would be beneficial to fully inform the board of our client's adjacent operations and other factors the board may wish to consider. Our client has been located at 121 Moore Hopkins Lane since 2016 and employs approximately 85 employees and an additional 30 remote. On-site operations include offices, warehousing, a fabrication shop, control room, heavy truck and equipment storage, and an outdoor material laydown yard. Regular operations include high pressure testing of gas pipeline segments and metering valve stations, done both indoors and out. Our client's main control room operates 24 hours daily. Based on project needs, its trucks and equipment may be mobilized at any time. There's a daily expectation of high volume vehicle and heavy truck traffic. Components are stored on site for critical gas pipeline infrastructure. It's essential that our entire campus remains well lit. And we do use bright stadium styled lighting to illuminate the property from dusk to dawn. It's clearly visible from surrounding properties. So they just want to make sure it's known of their active industrial operations currently exist near the proposed development. Traffic, motor vehicle concerns currently exist on Moore Hopkins Lane. There's a high volume of industrial traffic and it lacks pedestrian sidewalks and safety. And again, while they do not oppose the special exception, we believe the board's deliberative review process should consider the above factors to ensure that existing industry, vehicular traffic, and pedestrian traffic can properly and safely coexist.
So he's, like I said, he's saying, guess what, guys, you're coming to the nuisance. He's saying we are, don't come back to us later on and say, guess what, there's all this lights and sound and everything else. We're warning you now that that's what's going on. That's.
Let's check with the applicant real quick. Catherine, Mr. Coates, you've heard the public input. Do you wish to add anything to that? This is just a standard part of our operating procedure.
And I do appreciate now I'm having this opportunity. And by the way, we're very thankful that this letter was written by Hainsworth Sinclair Boyd and bringing it up, because what we did and what I hope that y'all heard in my very fast and expedient type of explanation of the project, that we are going to be putting in a buffer zone. We are going to come in and plant trees to make sure that we have a nice buffer area away from, and that will hopefully shield the back of our property. And if you will look on the rendering we did on the, that we submitted into the staff where it shows the layout of the site, you'll see that this is the back area. There is a walking trail in the back that's going to be looking at it. The parking lot is going to be somewhat adjacent to where their operations are located, but we'll have trees along this area. And so our property will be further back. It will not be right there. So we do understand that. We don't think that we're going to be bringing in additional traffic to the area. We think that the traffic that is there is reasonable. We don't believe it's going to be a overly much, an over volume that we have to be concerned with at any time. It doesn't matter whether you're in a, what type of area you're concerned about trucks coming through, but I think they've got a good safety record. And I don't believe there's much of a concern on our side that this is going to be coming in. This is going to be a senior facility, but it is a 55 and up senior facility. And so speaking for myself, 55 doesn't seem very old anymore. And so it's one of those things where we think we've got the concept handled properly to mitigate any of the concerns of coming in. And yes, you're exactly right. What they're doing is put y'all on notice and put me on notice. Hey, don't come back to us when we're still got our trucks coming in and you want to change something. We're not. We're going to come in and take those comments and incorporate those, which we've already done. And we do appreciate their input.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, well, we're going to move into board discussion. Personally, I think you have a very, very good plan here, a very good project, a nice rendering of the project. I think it's a good deal. Other board members?
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Like it.
When you see a facility like this, you see one cut onto a main road that brings you into this facility, as opposed to like multiple driveways coming and going. It eliminates traffic a little bit. It makes the traffic onto Moore Hopkins Lane a little bit easier than having, multiple facilities all through that property with cuts onto the road. So I think it's a nice use of the property.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay. All right. Well, unless anyone else wants to add anything, let's get a motion.
Move to make a motion that we approve this application for special exception, subject to staff comments.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much to the board. We certainly do appreciate it.
Good project.
Appreciate your concision.
All right. The next matter is case 2021-0025. This is a variance at 3500 and 3452 North Main, 1209 Avondale and 1217 Sunset. This is a variance to the buffer transition yard requirement for a mixed-use development. I believe the applicant's on the line, hopefully still.
I'm here, Rachel.
Okay. So you're welcome to proceed, and I will, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and pull up some other documents that were shared by the applicant, but you can go ahead, Hoyt.
Yeah, my name's Hoyt Burnett. I'm the civil site engineer for the project. As most of you know, this is the new brewery project that's going in, and I just want to introduce Scott Middleton, who's going to kind of introduce the project as the owner. Scott, are you still there?
All right, I'm here. Can you see me? Yeah. So just to give you a brief overview of this project, this is the Old Stone Manufacturing Building, about 62,000 square feet. It's a historical building that's been abandoned and has been on the market for several years. We went out and took a look at the building, trying to figure out, kind of what it could be and what would be best suited for it. And honestly, a brewery is about the only thing that we could find that you could do with that space out there. And so we started reviewing and looking at how we could make that happen. Because the property is an old textile mill where they were making various clothing manufacturing since 1930, I believe 1939. We also looked at looking at space for office space out there because it is in an opportunity zone. So our plans right now are to build about a 50,000 square foot office building that will house our operations with SC House Calls and Main Street physicians in our operations center. That'll employ about 300 people on that site, as well as to the brewery. So it really is becoming a campus of sort, and so that's one of the reasons we're looking at these variances out here so that we can kind of create that campus atmosphere.
And I'll just kind of briefly go through the variance request. We've got this one, and then we've also got another one for a parking lot that's just north of here. But essentially, the ordinance requires us to have a masonry wall fence along our northern property line. And to the Middleton's credit, they've acquired those properties north of Avondale and are in the process of closing down a portion of Phillips and a portion of Avondale to create more of a campus feel. And so I think the intent of the ordinance is to screen us against our northern neighbor, and that's a bit of a unique situation. It is residential, but only because the resident lives at a commercial location. So he operates a business up front, and then he lives there, but it is, for all practical purposes, a commercial building that faces North Main. We have, I counted it today, 9 trees of pretty significant size that are either on our side of the property or on his side of the property, that I fear if we put in a masonry wall and a large footing, we would kill a lot of those trees. And so that's the main reason why we want to put in this wood fence instead of the required masonry wall. And we have the architect online too, if there's any questions you have for him. So that's it. If y'all got any questions, feel free to answer.
Thank you, Hoyt. All right, board members, any questions for the applicants?
None here.
And I just want to put on the record too that actually the only reason this is on regular is because we got a couple general calls about it. So I didn't know if they were going to swing one way or the other, but no opposition was received.
Okay, any public input, Rachel, besides what you just mentioned, obviously?
I provided you all with a neighborhood letter. I think that was in the packet, or I send it your way after the packet was published, but we'll see if Erica has anybody on the line.
At this time, we don't have any callers or any new emails.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, is there any board discussion regarding this matter? Well, it seems about as straightforward as you could get to me. And this time I'd like to make a motion that we approve the variance to the buffer transition yard for the mixed-use development subject to all staff comments.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Okay, another good project. Thank you all very much.
Keeping in line with the same project, we have 2021-0027 for 3509 Phillips. This is a remote parking lot area, and it's a variance to the buffer transition yard requirement on that parcel.
So again, and I don't think we need Scott to introduce the project again, but this is a piece of property that they're going to use for parking, overflow parking, maybe staff parking or something. I guess at one time it did have a house on it, but as most residential lots, a lot of the trees are around the perimeter. So again, we didn't want to put a masonry wall in and kill, a 22-inch oak. There are quite a few nice trees on the property. And so again, we're requesting a wood fence so that we can try to save the trees around the perimeter.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. Any public input, Rachel?
I'll ask Eric again. I don't believe so, though.
No.
No, there's no callers.
Thank you.
Okay, I wouldn't expect much, but any board discussion? Okay, good. At this time, then I would like to make a motion again that we approve the variance to the buffer transition yard for a parking lot use subject to all staff comments.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, very good. Motion passes.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Final case on the agenda is 2021-0030 for 300 Clemson Road. This is a variance to the minimum parking requirement for a multifamily residential development. The applicant, if they're on the line, is welcome to introduce their case and give us a brief overview of their request.
Hi, I'm Charlie Irick. I am the applicant for this request. We are proposing to build 288 affordable housing community right there off of Clemson Road. We've got a couple different site plans laid out, and we're requesting a parking variance for a couple of reasons. Mainly, it would allow our stormwater management plan to be more effective, and I believe my civil engineer is also on the line if he can answer any technical questions for that. But at 2 spaces per unit, which I think is the ordinance right now, it's an excessive amount of parking for what we will need. We've built similar communities throughout the state, and we just don't need that much parking. And so with a reduction in the parking, it allows better stormwater management for the site. It also allows for a lot more green space, probably a thicker buffer between us and the future commercial properties on the front and the new subdivision to the rear. I'm happy to answer any more questions, but that's really the overview of our request.
Okay, quickly, Charlie, give us how many, you may have said this, and apologize if I did, but how many spaces are required and how many are you requesting?
Where's my letter? Let's see here. The let's see, it would take it from 576 total spaces down to 461 would be the minimum. And I think the site plan that we submitted shows 477.
Okay, so I would personally consider that a pretty minor reduction. I don't think you're asking for a huge deal here. Do any board members have any questions for the applicant? Okay, is there any public input regarding this matter?
I think there is one person on the phone.
Okay,
So Erica, you can patch them through.
Hi, this is Alan Goff. I'm actually the civil engineer on the project. I'm on the road right now, so I actually had to call in from the public standpoint to get the patch in. So I apologize, but just wanted to answer any questions if I could.
I think we're good, Alan. Looks like a very good project, a nice design. We like the additional green space and less stormwater runoff. So we're good. Charlie's got it.
Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Alan.
All right. Is there any board discussion regarding this matter?
Well, Gene, after you made that wonderful, everything's wonderful thing, well, I can't possibly say, oh, I absolutely despise this project. You must be joking. We need lots of parking out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, less green space, more parking.
That's
No,
right.
it's just-
Yay, pave the paradise.
Right.
No, it's good. It's a good plan.
Great. I'm glad to see it.
Absolutely.
Right.
Okay. Well, Catherine, would you like to make a motion?
I move. Oh, no, you do it. It's your project. You love it so much.
I do like it. I think it's a great idea, and we have
I
to.
do too. I do too.
Really. So, okay, I'd like to make a motion. We approve the variance to the all-street parking requirement for the multifamily residential use, subject to all staff comments.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, very good. Good project.
Thanks, everybody.
See more of that.
Yes, we do. Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All those in
Meeting.
favor, say aye. Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay.
See y'all. Have a good one.
Good meeting, everyone. See you all next month.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you, Rachel.